claims that are pretty outlandish, but I can back them up. Boom. End of story. There is no other crypto out there, so don't get it twisted. If you don't understand where you're parking your money, you're gonna pay the consequences for that, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. Boom. We're obliterating everybody, literally. There is nobody else that comes close to what Hex has done. Boom. Oh, it's about to get funky. Funkier than you could have ever imagined. You know, Richard Hart is a boss. Hex is literally the best thing on the planet. It's simple mathematics. Yo, what up, everybody?
What's up? Happy Thanksgiving, peeps.
Yeah, to those that celebrate and to those who are just enjoying a day off, well, congratulations for skimming one.
Hey, any way you can get it, you know?
That's it, baby. That's it. Hook or crook. You know how it go.
Love it.
Man, so yo, thank you for joining me. I actually wanted to go over these charts again. You know, kind of we got a lot of new people now, so everybody
For sure.
isn't aware of what it is that these charts are saying and all that good stuff. So, it's things about hot time. I probably go over them. So,
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
aren't like
Yeah.
asking crazy questions like, yo, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Why do I
Yeah.
care about a chart that's not a price chart?
Right, exactly. And there is a lot of people that are new in the community. I mean, you can see it every day in the numbers. We talked about this last time where, you got like on average like 100 new stakers a day. And
Yeah,
a lot of these people are brand new because I'm seeing in comments of like lots of videos, well, with the gas fee so expensive, like how's the price going to go up? And it's
correct.
like, yo, well, you ain't moving the price up. Let's be clear.
You're already
If
in.
you got, well, not just that, but like if you got $500 to buy, you ain't moving the price up. It's the big boys
Right.
who are moving the price up, and the big boys don't give a fuck about no gas fee. Okay, they don't care about $500. It's nothing to them. When they're making 10% on a $500,000 trade, you think they give a fuck about $500 when they're trying to make 50,000? Like on a 10% move. Come on.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? People think they like know what they're doing, right? And what I
Hmm.
mean is by exercising the way that they take on risk, right? Like a lot of people don't realize that, jumping in and out of a position, you're just prolonging the inevitable, which is just you taking another loss,
Yep.
right? Because if you would have just held that position or to that strategy the first time, you wouldn't have to worry about having to look for that next opportunity. It would just, you would just be in it, and that would just be it, right? So a lot of people kind of play themselves in certain respects when it comes to what they think they are doing, right?
Absolutely.
And that's why staking is so powerful because it removes that negative externality that you give yourself by participating in things that you probably would normally not have participated in if you understood what you were doing in the first place. And it's just simply a function of ignorance because we all really start there, right? And once you
Absolutely.
find staking and you realize like how it removes the power from you screwing yourself, it's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, it saves you from yourself. And instead of like, if you have the trade mentality, you're trying to get in, you're trying to get out, right? So like
Yup.
some you win, some you lose. It's really hard to lose with staking over time, right? Especially when you're getting
Correct.
those, 20%, 40%, every year. And but you don't even have to stress about it. You don't even have to worry about it. And a lot of times, because of the staking mechanic, getting paid in hex, you're making exponentially more, so you're not
Yep.
making 20 to 40%. You might be making 4,000%, and it's like
Correct.
that's better than any trade you could ever do.
Correct. Every time, every day of the week.
Hmm.
Right. And the thing about it is that on top of that, what you're doing is you're removing the downside possibility. Right. That possibility is ever present when you're always making a decision because there is this thing called decision fatigue. Right. And decision fatigue is what happens when you're always making one choice after the other. And as a trader, right, a person that exercises their ability to make capital from capital, you are constantly doing that because it's one quick decision to the next. And you think you have to do that, but in reality, you actually don't, right?
Right.
That's why staking is so like staking, it has this negative connotation by default because it removes the element of you having to be constantly doing anything. And they frown on that, right? Because they want to be generating their fees, they want to be doing their big boy things where they're
Of
extracting
course.
value from you.
Yep. That's why, and
So
that's why they're so scared. And it's so funny. It's so funny because it's not just them that's scared. It's like, what is everybody trying to hide? So I saw a chart that was the top staking coins, okay?
right.
And it was like how many unique stakers that they had.
Mm,
And I was like looking, and like we obviously know like Hex's staking numbers, right? So I'm like looking on the list for like where Hex should be, and I'm like, what the fuck? We're not even on the list, bro. Like they had like, OHM and Strong and some other stuff. And they had forks of these coins, literally forks of these coins, but they don't have the original. Like, come on, like you're kidding
wow.
yourself. And I'm just like, man, I didn't even want to comment. I'm just like, man, these idiots. Like, you know what? Just let them stay poor. For
Yeah, you
real. Just let them
can't.
stay poor.
Yeah, you literally cannot help everybody.
You can't. You can't. And like there's people that would rather get in on a Ponzi because they think that they're late to Hex. And it's just such a joke, man.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you've been in crypto for a long time, you see the same shit time and time again. And I got friends, and I've gotten a lot of people in from like other communities and stuff because your boy was a pretty big degen. So I was in and out of a lot of communities and stuff, and I've gotten a lot of people in, from communities that we might not necessarily have like reach to,
hmm
and some of these guys will get in with their like as a part of their passive portfolio, which is pretty much what I recommend to everybody. It's just like, get in where you fit in and let Hex save you from yourself, because these guys, they still want to do the degen stuff.
Of
And
course.
and they're talking about, like we have mutual friends or whatever, and then they're like, oh, I got rug pulled, oh, I got this. And I'm telling my other friends, who were in those communities that are like full on Hexicans now, and I'm like, look at that, you see all that capital that they just lost. Imagine if they just staked that 15 years.
Right.
Like they might have lost like $5,000-10,000 now, but what is that 15 years from now? And when you're talking about T-shares and when you're talking about the power of the system that people just don't get. So yeah, it's crazy, man. And it's the same thing over and over and over again, right? It's like, you like Richard Hart says, right? You got to let people, buy tops and sell bottoms. And you see it all the time. There's a lot of trade tards in Hex, and you see it all the time where it's like they think they can do better than the chart, and they get really, really upset. They might disappear from Twitter, whatever, or they try to like FUD their own bags because they're really trying to buy a little bit lower. They're like,
Right.
just let it go down 10% more. I just want to increase my stack by 10%. And it's like, yo, I see what you're doing, bro. I
It's
see
such a
what you're doing.
fruitless endeavor
Yeah.
too, man. It's
Like
so
I see what you're doing,
fruitless.
but like you don't got to do it like that. It's comical to me, and I just know that like you might win this time, but you're gonna end up getting fucked.
Yeah,
So
eventually.
getting
Yeah.
stuff like that turkey that you having today.
Walking around with all that stuff and you thought you was
Yep.
you was gonna be at the dinner table, not part of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
dinner
you on
table,
it.
Yeah, you on it.
Yep.
Oh man.
You ain't eating, you
Yo,
getting ate.
and this is why understanding what really matters is what's important, right?
Absolutely.
We have this constant conversation about what metric is important, what metric is important. And I think people just don't realize that there is no metric that's important. Every coin should fit a purpose, right? Other than
Yep.
that, what purpose, it's just everything else. It's the copy of everything else,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
it.
Like there should be a narrative for your coin. And that's always what I was kind of always looking at. I mean, I suppose if there's enough hype and you're a trader, you can take advantage of that kind of stuff. But to
hmm
me, I'm always looking for the long-term plays, right? Because if you look at the best investors over time, like that's what they do, right? They're always buying, they're always putting capital to use, and they're doing it in like good stores of value, right?
Right.
And like Hex, when I first heard about like Hex and the game theory and everything, I was sold, bro. Like it just made so much sense to me. And back then there was so much FUD. I mean, like I think a lot of people take it for granted that the people who weren't in the beginning. I mean, bro, it was a ton of FUD. I mean, it was unbelievable. The
Yeah, I
community
wasn't
was
even
not.
around back then. I wasn't
Yeah,
even
the
around back
community
then.
wasn't even 1/1000th of what it is. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was, I'm talking about before like Hexologist was really streaming. I think he put out some videos early and stuff like that, but we really had no community. There was
Right.
on Twitter, there was, very, very few people. We weren't like all, friends with each other yet. It was just kind of like you might have had like 10 friends on Twitter, like followers or whatever, and you just like
Yeah.
saw, oh, somebody else is tweeting about Hex. Let me at them or whatever.
And that was it.
The Reddit community was abysmal. I mean, there was probably like less than 100 people on like Hex Crypto. And basically like every community, Ethereum, our cryptocurrency was just calling everything a scam, and there was nobody to fight. Yeah, we did have Telegram, that is true, but it just, it was lonely out there because, like Telegram is its own little space,
Yeah.
but like Reddit is, like all of, crypto. Like Twitter is like all of like those crypto. Twitter was a thing long before the Telegram, you know what I mean? So
For sure.
it
Yeah.
was really quiet, and if you said something, if you showed something, you didn't necessarily have people having your back in the beginning. But that did end up happening, and the community has grown. I mean, you got to think we're still under 2 years. We're right at about 2 years, but like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my God, like what the community has become. Like, it's just funny to me because I've seen the growth and everything like that, and I know where we're going, and I know how strong the community is, and I've talked a lot about the hidden pumpamentals of Hex, and one of the biggest hidden pumpamental, in my opinion, as being somebody that's been in a lot of different communities and stuff, is seeing the community strength over time, because you have people that are staking for 15 years, and most people don't FUD their bags, right?
Right.
And that's why you have a lot of people coming in saying that like Hex has the strongest community in crypto. Why is that? It's because you're not leaving. Like people will go in for a trade on another coin, and when they get
That's
out,
it.
they're done. They unfollow the coin. They don't ever talk about it again, right? They don't care about it, And
Yeah.
crypto is very tribalistic, so you pump your own bags, right?
Correct.
Well, if you're in Hex and you use Hex correctly, you're here for over a decade. Like that is possibly the strongest fundamental of them all, and we don't ever talk about it. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's a unique aspect of business that just doesn't exist in other spaces, right? Because when you think about other endeavors, everybody is hired by a centralized power authority, a centralized
Hmm.
power, and everything rolls down from the top down, right?
Yep.
This is completely different. It's actually the reverse. It's ground up.
Hmm.
So this is the thing that most people don't get, right? People think that people are backing Richard or whatever, right? Like, nah, man, people are backing what exists because
Right.
it works, because we have the time and service, right, to understand what's shit and what's not. That's literally it. It's
Hmm.
literally nothing else. So when you got a community full of people that have spent their time in this space researching, looking, trying to find, yada yada, and then they find that one thing that they're really, gun ho about, to put it in simplest terms, there's got to be a reason for that, because we have a lot of smart, well versed, well educated, and I mean well educated in the sense that these people read, right? Not like
Right.
PhDs and
Yeah.
dumb shit like
Right.
that. Like
Right.
that
Right.
shit doesn't
Yep.
matter, right? You
Yep.
can have all the PhDs you want, you can still be a fucking moron. That's
Hmm.
a fact, So,
I always
um,
say it's a balance, right? Like you got to
yeah,
have like street smarts, you got to have like common sense. Because you
hundred
ever meet
percent.
somebody
But
that is like so book smart, but they got no common sense.
yeah, common sense
Like
is not
people can
common.
scam them, people can take
Yeah,
advantage of them. Like you gotta be well rounded. Like that's to
hundred
me is
percent,
the you know
100%. I mean, we've all seen that person, right? That A student but can't think further than a book,
exactly,
right? Like,
exactly.
what
No
value are they
application,
adding? Yeah, what value
right?
are they adding?
None,
None.
none. They're good at remembering stuff for a test, but like that's not the real world. That's not practical application. Like you got to be
No,
able to
it's
put it to
not.
use.
It's not, and that's why, right? When we talk about information in crypto, we're always gonna stand out because you
Hmm.
got people like me producing material like this, right? I mean, number one, this meme is the killer of all memes, right? And people are going to learn very soon here shortly why this is, right? Because when people look at this hex chart, all they see is 50 days of sideways price action or and a dip.
Yep. Or people don't
That's
look at the log, right? And then they're like,
hmm
Hex is dead. Hex is fucking dead. The Ponzi has collapsed. I
yo,
love it when I see people talk like that. I'm like, bruh,
it's
do
so
you know how to look at a
hilarious.
chart? Do
It's
you know
so
what Bitcoin has
hilarious.
looked at? And it's like, okay, Ethereum went down 95%. People like Hex will lose 70% and people lose their damn minds and they're coming out of the woodwork. I called it. I called it from the beginning. It was a Ponzi scheme, right? And
Yeah,
you're
that
like,
was funny. That was
you're like,
funny.
what?
That was real funny. Yeah, a lot of people were talk that shit. I mean, look,
Comical.
we got 181x from big payday low to not even big payday low, but around the big payday low to the doubling or to the top on September whatever 14th or whatever day that was 19th whatever day,
Hmm.
right? 18,000%, bro. 18,000%, and we've only
Yeah.
gone down like 70%.
Right. And I mean, like, think about it like this. Even if there's diminishing returns and we only do half next time, that's a 90x from around here, right?
I mean,
A
the last
90x
time I
from like,
checked, nobody else is talking the Nexus except Hexicans.
yeah, it's true. Especially when you're talking about like 100x's, because people will spend their entire crypto life to try to get a couple 100x's. And like in Hex, we do it all the time. It's like a joke,
Bro,
you
on
know?
Wall Street, a 10x is a career making trade.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Here we talk in X's. We talk in X. I don't think people appreciate the simplicity in that statement and how profound it is. It's a very dense statement, right?
Yep.
Because we went from two zeros to no zeros all in 1 year.
It's crazy.
Exactly.
It's crazy. It's funny because like I've made the comment before. Like I live my life 100x at a time, and it's because of Hex, right? Like
There you go.
I don't get up. I don't give a fuck about no 10%, 100%, 200%.
It's
Like
impossible
I'm
to.
waiting. Yeah, it's real hard, but like I know where we're going, and that's why I always say I'm like, guys, and Richard says it all the time too, right? And you say it too. It's like, guys, we're on the road to $100 and beyond. You know, the thing is, you can't really talk about beyond $100 from where we're at because people like their brain
They
can't
can't see.
comprehend it.
Yeah,
They
they
can't
can't see.
comprehend it. They're just like, that's not possible, but it is.
Yeah, well, look, when I got on the scene, people couldn't fathom 10 cents this year. And
Yeah,
I was talking $10 this year
yeah,
or
absolutely.
$10 period. And most people just could not wrap their heads around that because of the unit bias. They don't understand that markets don't care about how much they have, they care about how
Right.
much is out there floating around. I mean, how else
Yeah.
did we go from Bitcoin being worth zero to
Hmm.
60,000?
Yep. And imagine if those people couldn't have sold, like
Exactly.
that's the
Imagine where
crazy
the
part.
price would be.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And like people talk shit about hex flexes and stuff, but like it really does. There are people that have gotten in because of those things. And it's like it's really
100%.
hard to say that like, oh, the money doesn't exist when people are, posting those kind of things. You know what I mean? So it does do something, maybe
It
if like people
validates.
didn't say, yeah, it does validate because it's like it's one thing. I always say, I'm like, where the fuck is everybody else that's shining? Because I don't ever see it. I mean, you might see one guy that like gets a McLaren or something on crypto Twitter, but it's like one guy from one community. Whereas like there's literally like a fleet of Hexicans that have like
A
very
fleet
nice
is right.
cars.
That's the right word.
Yeah, it's like we rolling out. It's gang gang when we
It's
roll
deep
out. You know what I mean? Yeah,
all the
it's
time.
deep. So I don't know. It's just it's comical, but take these advantages, guys. Like if you think, oh, all those hex flexes cause the top, and you're not hex flexing, you don't got money like that. Use it to buy the dip, guys. Like what are you doing? Like
That's
you
literally
want to live that lifestyle. You want to get to where that's at. And let's say you say, okay, well I don't want a Benz. I don't give a fuck about that, but I want to have my house paid off or whatever. Like you got to buy the dip to do that. What are you
so.
gonna wait for
What's
a
a hex
dollar
flex,
to
bro? What's a hex flex? How do you define a hex flex? I got a specific definition for that shit.
you go for it? Let me hear it.
A hex flex is you taking whatever gains you got from hex and using it to do whatever the fuck you want to do.
That's
That's a
true.
that's a
Yeah.
literal hex flex.
100. Yeah.
So
100.
if for you is giving money away to a shelter or whatever to some charity,
Yeah.
that's your hex flex, man.
Absolutely. Oh,
Right?
100%. 100%.
That's
It don't need to be materialistic
it
thing. You
doesn't
know
need to
what?
be materialistic. Yeah,
Not having to go to work is a hex flex. I mean,
correct.
there's a lot of hex flexes for
That's
sure.
my point.
But you know,
Yeah,
I think, and I think you know this too. It's just like when I was coming up, I never once like looked at somebody and was like, man, fuck that rich dude or whatever.
yeah,
I was always asking like, how do I get it? You know,
correct.
like let me hear
How
what
can
you
I
got to
be
say.
like
Like,
that guy?
yeah, how can I be like that guy? And you know, like, so I was never like a hater because I was always asking like, well, how do I eat like that?
Yeah.
And you know, and it's funny because every time I hear somebody saying that kind of shit, I'm just like, man, you fucking yourself, you know, you fucking yourself because you can get there. You're just not asking the right questions.
That's
You're
right.
not.
That's a fact. I mean, I remember how I used to think I could accomplish my goals, right? And I was so dead wrong. I was so dead wrong, so much so that I had one intention when I started, with the one video I made. And I'd say this shit damn near every stream, bro, because I really want people to understand that you just literally have to take that first step,
Yep.
right? All it takes is that one step. Once you put one foot in front of the other, you're in motion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So that's when everything just goes down to the wire, right?
And it gets easier, right?
And it
Like
gets
getting in
easier.
motion's the hardest part, right? It's like things
Exactly.
that are in motion stay in motion. That's like a law, right? So it's like it's just the hardest part is get going. It's like correct your mind, get on the path, and just keep going. You know?
Look, I only had the intention of making one video, and that was it. Bally had pulled me aside. Maddie pulled me aside. Everybody pulled me aside to stream. I had no intention of doing so. That's the only reason I'm still around. It's the only reason. So that's how I discovered my place in this space,
Right.
right? So it's because I put that one foot out there. Right? So you have to be willing to be open to putting that one foot out there. This is how I found Hex in the first place. It wasn't because I was out here looking for it, it's because I was doing different things to expand my horizons. And that's actually what led me to Hex. It wasn't
Yeah,
interest in crypto.
I think a lot of people are, you know, like constantly seeking information because if you look in the Hex community, that's what you see, right? You see a lot
Right.
of researchers, you see a lot of people that are digging deep, that are
Hmm.
looking for something. And as far as like finances go, like Hex was what I was always looking for. You know, I could never maybe articulate it into words and say like this is exactly what I want, but like, you know, interest, like I've talked about it before, I think on our last stream where it was like a lot of guys were miners, right? A lot of the biggest hexagons were previous miners and stuff. So they were looking for that like income coming in. They were looking for passive income. You know, mining's not really passive income. I mean, staking in hex is truly passive income, but they were
Right.
looking for that kind of, you know, thing. So
Yeah.
I think that's why we have like such a good group of hexagons because like they're, you know, in the community in general is like pretty woke and stuff
Right.
because, you know, they're looking for stuff. They're that's how they found it.
Correct. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that damn near everybody in Hex found it by their own merit for the most part, right? Whether it was by
Hmm.
mistake or whatever. Like I found it by mistake, but it was because I was doing what I was doing that it led me to
Right.
that,
Exactly. Exactly.
right? So it was an indirect action, but it was a direct action with intention that I was actually taking that led me to it. So it was the right thing
Yes,
regardless,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Because that's where we were going anyway.
Yep.
And like when you
And if you didn't find it that day, maybe you would have found it, you know, a
some
month
other day.
later, or, you know, some
Yeah.
other day. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like I think like when you look at like the first batch of people that found it, they were people that were just following Richard Hart. Then the
Yep.
second batch of people were people that were seeking truth and information,
Yep.
and then a lot of us have a similar mentality from that perspective. And then I think the third wave ends up being people that are more of a mixed bag, people that found it during those dumps that we had in earlier parts
Hmm.
of this year, and they found Hex through using random websites or hearing about it on Twitter or whatever the weird thing was, right? Because now you got
Yep.
so many streamers or you got the algorithm pumping all over the place. Like sometimes Hex trends on Twitter, right? Like
Absolutely. And
funny
like
things happen.
for yeah, and like I think like people don't realize like how early it is still, right?
Hmm.
Like so, you know, we've made the comparison before that it's like, you know, Bitcoin at $30 kind of thing. And like I heard about Bitcoin way before I got in. It might have been
Right.
like 2011, 2012 or whatever, but I just remember being like, it's too volatile. Like, it's crashed so many times. Like, I don't want it. I was going to stick with like traditional assets like stocks and everything. And then, as time went on, I finally like bought, I think in like 2014 or something. But like it took a long time of me knowing about Bitcoin before I like really, really like dove in and jumped in. And I'm certain that there's people that know about Hex and they're gonna wait for it to go to multiple dollars before they're like, wait, what? I knew about that at like 2 cents and it's like $7 now. Like
100%.
it's clearly going to 100. Like I better get in now, right? So like
Hmm.
that's how it goes, right? That's how virality goes. It's like the more people that know, like sometimes they know, but they just got to get warmed up, right? And then they're like, okay, I'm red pilled now. Like, let's do this thing.
Right. And that's the thing, right? It's all about how you want to exercise the information you have, right? Having information is meaningless if you're not putting it to use.
Hmm.
Like, look at this chart. What is this chart saying, right? This chart is saying that for the first 710 days of each of these instruments' existence, you got Ethereum, Bitcoin, T shares, and Hex. Each one performed just as you see on this chart. But which is the high performer? The T share.
Oh yeah.
It's basically doubled the performance that Hex itself has done in price. So by default, this is letting us know that you want to be staked when you buy Hex. Sure, Hex itself is going to outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum because in its first 710 days, it's already done so because this is an age comparison chart. So we're looking at each asset with respect to its respective age given this number, 710 days. So ETH outperformed Bitcoin, but Hex outperformed ETH and Bitcoin, and T shares outperformed Hex, ETH, and Bitcoin. So staking is the winning ticket with respect to returns. It's just
Hmm.
the way it goes.
And the crazy thing about like ETH and Bitcoin, is that like ETH did outperform like Bitcoin, especially at times, but you paid for that with like crazy downside volatility. Whereas with Hex, I mean, I could tell you, like holding through the last cycle, Ethereum
Hmm.
was way more painful. Uh, and I had like very large bags. It was way more painful than these hex dips. I mean, it was goddamn terrible.
Yeah, this
And
is
and
this is
part
the
of
peak
it,
right here.
yeah, and part of it was because in Ethereum at that time, the inflation was high and
Yeah.
there was basically no game theory hope. I'm like, okay, well, like it's inflating at a very high rate. I think it was like around 8%. And I'm like, okay,
Oof.
so like basically I need people to just like keep onboarding to Ethereum to buy more than is being inflated. But that's like not very like hopeful. Whereas like Hex has amazing game theory. So it's
Yeah.
like when the dips happen, I'm just like, and then we have all these like statistics to go off of. It's like it just doesn't it's not even close to as stressful.
It's not. It can't be. Right. I mean, look, that's crazy. That's a 94% dip.
Let me tell you, it's one thing to look at it, it's another thing to experience it. You
Oh,
know what
I
I'm saying?
bet.
Like that shit was painful, bro. 94%.
Fuck,
Uh,
man. That's
yeah,
crazy, dude. I had no idea.
bro. I can tell you that, like, a lot of people probably like lost years off their lives, like stressing about some of that stuff. Because I mean,
I mean,
it,
yeah, that's a big move, bro.
and you imagine the shit talk that like Bitcoiners were doing, during that time. Like, I just remember, people calling like Ethereum a double-digit shit coin, and oh my god. I was just like, like I was like a very large holder, and I'm just like, I just remember being so angry, and Richard was talking shit about it during that time too, and I'm just like, fuck, uh, but I always respected his opinion, like the dude's
Mhm.
smart as fuck, so it's like, but there's people like Udi, in on crypto Twitter, and just like other people. God, it was painful. It was painful, and it's sad because like my dad capitulated.
Oh no.
I think yeah, he had a lot of Ethereum too. Uh, he sold I think around $100, and it went down to like 88. So it's like basically the bottom.
Yeah.
And he was hoping to buy, around 70, $80, but it was like 88 was the bottom. And then it was at like 120. He bought back in the 100s. I can't remember exactly where. But I mean, that's a percentage of your bag that you lose. And when you're talking about
Yeah.
big money, like, oh, and I was telling him, I was like,
Yeah.
yo, the moment that you felt like I can't take another percent, I gotta sell, that's exactly when you should have bought more,
Yeah.
because that's how it
That's
works.
funny. That's exactly how it works. Yes.
It's the
That's the funny.
psychology.
That's
Like
exactly how
you
it works.
literally, you cannot physically experience any more pain from the chart. That's when you got to buy. You literally have to do the opposite. And yeah, I mean, it sucks,
Do you,
losing out on,
so
hundreds,
okay,
hundreds of ETH and stuff.
let's talk about how did you come to that realization, because it takes a lot for people to get to that point. I get it, you get it,
Yeah.
but for a lot of people that shit is Chinese.
I mean, for me
And they're not
personally, it was,
Chinese, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, so
for me
how'd you get to that
personally,
point?
it was experience, right? Like I did a lot of research, and it's one thing to like hear, people like us telling you it, but it's a completely another thing to experience it,
Right.
right? And it's like when I was going through the dip, it was pretty much the like worst point in my life. I like, what the saying is, like when it rains, it pours.
Right.
Um, so it was like Ethereum had gone down. I At the time I had been on such a high, right? I was loving life, everything was good. I was like potentially getting ready to like maybe retire. um I thought, oh, okay, like Ethereum's really doing it, like we're going, I had a feeling that we were going to go to like 6,000,
Right.
right? So when we topped at like 1,400, I was like, oh, this can't be it, this can't be it. And I just remember losing like hundreds of thousands a month. and
Oof.
uh and I was leveraged also.
Oh,
So it was like extra painful. I started paying attention to the charts so much, and just like, just doing like more research into like what, everything that was going on and stuff development, that like my girlfriend at the time, like pretty much I basically stopped paying attention to her. And
naturally.
yeah, and so obviously I started having like relationship issues, and so it was just
Hmm.
basically like, everything was like piling on at the same time. So I basically learned through like trial by fire, right? I had to
Yeah.
experience all those things. I had to
Yeah.
watch other people get 100% wrecked, you know, and there was times that I personally capitulate. I didn't necessarily like capitulate like my Ethereum position entirely, but there was one point where the ratio was bleeding so much against Bitcoin, and I was like, I should have had like more Bitcoin in my portfolio, because ETH had gone down like 95% or something like that. And I can't remember exactly how much Ethereum or Bitcoin went down, but it was not even anywhere close to that. So I was like, so basically I capitulated a portion of my ETH bag into Bitcoin at the bottom of the ratio. And so so then when Ethereum started
Damn.
going back up, I was like, oh my God, So it's basically just, experiencing it, seeing other people like fuck up their entire bag. I made big mistakes. And I think that's how a lot of humans learn, is just by making mistakes and stuff.
That's
And
right.
it's sad, and it's unfortunate that has to happen. And so that's why, I talk about it like candidly, so that like people listening don't go through the same things. And it's like I'm seeing that like in real time on the Hex chart, right? And I'm seeing it like in Twitter comments. It's like, oh, I've been there. I've experienced that. But the
Yep.
thing is that Hex does so many things better than like what Ethereum did. There was no way to earn yield in Ethereum when I was in there, right? If I was earning yield,
You wouldn't
I
have had to
think I would
sweat
have
it.
had way less stress, way,
Yeah.
way, 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 way less stress.
100%, bro.
Um, and there was also no game theory when I was in, right? So it was basically like greater fool hopium.
Right.
Truthfully, Bitcoin had better game theory, and that's also why I probably like capitulated when I did. If Ethereum had EIP 1559, that whole like market cycle, I don't think I would have ever sold an Ethereum, and in fact, I probably would have like added, but there just was no game theory. So it was just you were basically like you were just ODing on hopium. You were just like, please
Yeah.
God, let the world computer exist. Like it was stupid. So like I think like hexagons take it for granted what we have
Yeah.
in a product, what we have in a founder. I mean, Richard is amazing. Like Richard will come on. He'll tell you, like great thing. Like Vitalik was, and is a terrible leader for Ethereum, in the sense that like, the one thing that people care about, he doesn't talk about. He doesn't give you, any advice on, like how to get rich or, how to do anything like that. Like Richard gives advice on all manner of subjects. So
Mhm.
by any measurable metric, like Hexagon is way, way, way better off than like 99% of the communities out there.
I mean, that do you understand the significance of what you just said, right?
Oh yeah, I do because I
Like,
lived it,
yeah,
like before
like,
and after, and it's just like, man, I mean, even take away the gains, even if my gains were the same as what they were before, my psychology would be so much better because of how like everything that the Hex community is in
yeah.
general.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to to realize that, um, while this is a decentralized nexus of reality, people do like to see who sets the tone, right? Richard sets the tone, streamers set the
Hmm.
tone. People that are vocal in the community and have a voice, they set the tone. And luckily for us, we all have a similar tone,
Yep.
right? And I think that that's what gives us this cohesion, this ability to unite ourselves and accomplish whatever goal we might have, right? We like when we were in Vegas, man. Anytime we get together, it's like a whirlwind, right? It's just a flux of positive energy, and people just
Yep.
trying to get things accomplished, and that's it. No fuss, no muss. It's just a different world, and it's not something that we're used to, because it just doesn't really exist anywhere else, right? And I mean, look at the Hex is in pink, right? This is basically all the Bitcoin halvings, as they happen over time, right? And they're 372 days in, just like this is, and this is Hex post payday. And this is as of last night's crossover. So yesterday at
Hmm.
7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 1900 hours for those of you that understand that talk. Um, and we're just chopping sideways, right? Bitcoin finally came and passed us probably like a couple weeks ago. But now we're just bottoming out here, right? And I got a chart to prove it, and we'll go over it because I want people to understand all of these charts, especially if you're new. Welcome. You've literally found the best asset on the planet. Even if you don't know it yet, over time you will realize it because it is just true. And it's for the factors that we're going to relay today, right? Like we're going to go over these things because what you're not going to find here is just regular price charts, right? Regular price charts, you can get that anywhere, right? That's here, that's there, right? That's everywhere. What we want to know here is, well, how real is this thing called Hex? Because a lot of claims are made about it, right? And like my mission was to set out to see what was true and what was not, right? And what we've ended up discovering through this journey is that this thing is literally the best thing currently on the planet right now in terms of capital efficiency, right? Like you're taking a dollar and you're making back 40 cents on that dollar at a minimum if you're a long-term staker. That
Yeah, it's
is
crazy.
unfounded. Yeah, that's
It's
unfounded.
crazy, and
Uh-huh.
and also like the rate of correlation, correlation to the rest of the market is amazing
Zero.
because there's a lot of assets that try to be kind of decorrelated,
Decorrelated. Yep.
like art and stuff. Well, depending on like the fine art that you get, and art is also similar to crypto in that it's like speculation, right?
Hmm.
But art doesn't really pay yield. You're just kind of like hodling it to sell for more. And sometimes you can
Correct.
make 10% and it's pretty decorrelated to like stocks in a sense,
Right.
but it's not paying you 40% interest at the same time. Like so really Hex is better on a multitude of metrics than,
Hmm.
pretty much any asset on the planet. And, people don't recognize it, but those who do, and not even those who really understand it, but those who trust in the system, who are listening to what we say, and go in hard, they're going to be the most rewarded, and it's great to see.
That's right. I mean, it's always been the case, right? That early adopters get rewarded, and it's interesting to see in this case with Hex that there are people that can give us stories of $200 test accounts, test wallets, $200
Hmm.
that are six figures now, six figures, bro, from two
Oh yeah.
hundred measly dollars, $150, some spare change in a bucket. You know,
I know
like,
somebody who did a 1 penny stake, and it's last I checked, it was like $400 or $500. One
wow,
penny.
one freaking penny. How crazy is that?
It's ridiculous.
Yo, that's insane, bro.
Yeah, I can't even believe he did that. I was just like, bro, why?
Yeah, like, yo, that thing is gonna
He
be
just, yeah,
something. That's gonna be the
yeah, he,
metric. When did he
yeah,
stake that shit?
exactly. Yeah, yeah, that's why he did it. I think that's why he did it. But
When
I
did
was
he
just like,
stake it? Do
man,
you
that's
know the
crazy.
day?
I can find out for sure.
Yeah, find out. We need to track that
Yeah.
bad boy because if it's like near the low, that could be the measuring stick for a lot of things at one
Oh,
stake.
absolutely. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
crazy. Kudos to that guy
Mm-hmm.
for thinking of that shit. Damn. I would have
Yep.
never thought of that. Because
Oh
that's
yeah.
really, that's really how a lot of things, they talk about 6 million X and Bitcoin, but they measure it from the penny, not really the actual
Yeah, a
time that
penny is
the.
a penny. The penny metric is so good, and especially like
Mhm.
over time. And it is 555 staked, I believe. But like it could, you're like you said, it could be like a real metric to use, because when that thing is like thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, the thing is like you won't even pick up a penny when you walk by it on the street. It's
Right.
so insignificant, and like we don't value them at all. So when it's like real money, I think that's just mind blowing to people. But it's like this, the people who come in now, like, like you guys have the most opportunity. And there's people literally that are bypassing Hex for, Shiba Floki, Cat, Kitty Inu, because they think that that's what's going to give them like financial freedom. Like, what a joke. Like, you guys are the real ones. You guys are the people who are really going to benefit in this space. And you guys are going to be the ones to show these people, how it's done. So kudos to you guys, for seeing it, and for, putting the work in, and, like finding this stream, finding, other streams where, like truth is unlocked. And you know, I was showing like the rainbow chart from like Look into Hex. I was showing somebody that chart like last night,
Hmm.
and he was like, basically he was like talking about like the message and I was like, bro, it's a chart. Like there is no message. Like what somebody predicts like price off of, like doesn't matter. Like you need to take the data that chart is giving you, you
Right.
know and like the chart don't give a fuck what you think or what anybody else thinks. Like, you just look at it and like analyze for yourself, like what is it saying. And to me, what it's saying is that from a risk reward metric, it doesn't get better than this. Like if you were ever going to DCA into X, is now. So
Yep. Literally. Yep. Let's go to that chart actually, because it's a great chart to bring up because it's just true, right? Like if it does break that line, well, shit, we might have a problem, but I don't think that's gonna be a thing.
yeah, and I mean, like candles can close below it. It's done that in the past, even for weeks. But like,
Hmm.
I mean, if you look at the rainbow chart for any of the major like blue chip cryptos and stuff like that. I mean, any time that they're at the bottom of the linear regression, it was an amazing time to buy.
Hmm.
And of course, that's also the time when people are the most scared, or the most greedy, in the sense where they're waiting for 6 cents, right?
Right.
So fear and greed go both ways. I was trying to explain this to my girl. She's like, "Well, that's not greedy." And I'm like, "Oh, it is greedy. Like when
It
you're saying like
is.
you have a bunch of cash and you're waiting for 6 cents, that is
Yeah,
another
you
form of
want more
greed."
of that same thing for
Yeah,
less.
exactly. Exactly.
I mean, it's real simple. But and she, until she experiences that, she's not gonna understand it. That's really what it is.
Hmm.
Because look at this chart, right? And this is a weird chart to me because if you consider what the presuppos what the supposition of hex is supposed to be, this chart is just letting you know, like, yo, this is literally the most extreme point. They can't do anything lower. I'm sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I love about it, is because for whatever reason, like the rainbow, like breaks stuff down for our brains, right? Where you're saying like it's clear to see, okay, like the red, we've been at the red, like look how many touches that is, like
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's like 11 or 12 touches, right? And
Yep.
pretty much every single time that you touched at that point, even if it stays on the red. So like if you look at the middle part, there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like maybe like around 8 touches. But the way that the chart is that each touch was
It's
also a
higher.
higher price than the
Yep.
previous.
Higher low.
So exactly. So like you imagine that point of DCAing in, and whether it's like 3 or 4 months that it hung out on the lower band, like you're up a lot from there. You are
Yep.
up a lot. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, could you wait for more downside? I mean, you could, but like what this chart is telling you is that this is an amazing time to buy, right? Like
Correct.
Hex is undervalued in the sense of like, traditional values over time.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
even though the price is a lot higher than it was the last time it touched the red line, it's telling you that that price in the current state is very similar. So whether that was like 6 cents the last time it touched or whatnot, I can't see. It's telling you that it's basically like buying at that price again.
Yeah. Precisely. Let's
What is
see
it? Was it
what
1 cent? Okay, so it's
April.
like
Oh,
buying
this
at
is right
one
before
cent.
it took off last time.
Yeah, so it's like buying at 1.5 cent.
And
Like
and
that's
the time before that was Big Payday, which is
yeah. So what would
the
you
exact
do? What
move
would
we're
you
getting
do to
now.
go back to last year or to earlier this year and buy at 1.5 cents?
Yeah,
Like I
everybody would
think
do
anybody
everything.
would go back and load up the truck. But what are people doing now? They're
Complaining and
hesitating.
selling.
Exactly. Yeah. Sell the bottom. Buy ENS token. You pleb.
Yo, this is mad funny. I can't believe people are buying that. I got that airdrop though. Shout out to y'all who are pumping my back because you know where that's going. You know where
Yep.
that's going. I'm waiting for them to finish pumping that one, and you know where that's going.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be fun. But yeah, shout out to Gerard. But so this chart is letting us know, right, how hot Hex is versus all the Bitcoin having. So far, we're super outdoing what the second and third having is done. So this is the current one. This is the one before that one, and this is the first one. So the first one can't, like, it was doing nothing for a long period of time, and it just woke up over the past 65 days. So Hex is just taking a breather right now, and well, we already saw what happened last time, right? This is post big payday only, so I'm
Yep.
expecting a literal copy of this move, literally, only more like this, less of that,
Yep. Yeah. We're
because
just, you know,
there's less
we're just
supply to go
resetting
around.
all the indicators is what we're doing. People don't realize that like,
Yep.
what anything in life has to cool off after a bit, right? So we're just like refueling and we're going to take off again. But, of course people are going to wait until until it actually takes off,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
want to get in, and then they're going to FOMO in much higher. And it's like,
Mhm.
you got to change your thinking.
Yep. You got to get it when you can, not when you have to. I mean,
Right.
that's a very old school saying we got in trading from the futures markets, and that's just how it works, and especially in options where you typically want to be picking up calls at this point because prices are suppressed, volatility is suppressed, right? Same thing you had going on over here, and then when you look at the chart, what happens is look, explosion ultimately came from these depressed levels, not
Hmm.
from these levels, right? So when you're seeing the chart is making a type of move like this where you're seeing a selling. I mean, we haven't even talked about pulse chain for one split second, right? Like, how
Yeah,
are you
it's crazy.
selling before you get a free double? I don't even understand that. So,
Yeah, and I mean, like, people
I
don't get
can't
it. Like, there
rationalize
is a
that, bro.
chance
I
there
can't
is a
rationalize
chance
that.
that they reach parity. I mean, with the pulse swap and stuff. I
Right.
mean, there's just so many things that could potentially happen. And all I know is that you don't bet against Richard Hart. So it
Yep.
is what it is. But
I mean, well, look,
and then
the work speaks for itself, right?
mhm,
I don't think we even have to say anything. I mean, it's clearly illogical to do that.
right,
Right? Like,
absolutely.
look at this chart. This is Hex over the past year or so.
And it's also a gamble to just like be like, okay, well, I'm just gonna wait for the hex to come out in the pulse chain, because who knows how hard it pumps when it comes
Yeah,
out. And
because you can
you
actually
know
buy it and not, have to
yeah,
jump through a
exactly,
million
like
hoops
all
and
the
pay
all
a
the
fifth of
smaller
your
fish.
bag just to get
Yeah,
some.
all the smaller fish can buy like
Yeah,
regularly and stuff. And then you also think about that the primary pair is going to be hex and PLS most likely, right? And
right.
so with PLS's price rise that we're going to
Deflationary.
see, it's going to, yeah, and deflationary supply, it's going to bring the price of hex up with it. Like Hex even needed a rocket ship, right?
Correct.
Like
Yeah.
Hex didn't need no rocket ship to keep going to the moon,
No, it
but now
has
it's gonna
gas
have
for
one.
real.
Yeah, it's crazy, but hey, I mean, people are gonna find out the hard way. It is what it is.
I mean, people forget about this one thing that I have on this chart here, which is just the dollar value of a T share over Ethereum and Bitcoin. Ethereum in pink and Bitcoin in orange. And the main thing you guys got to keep in mind is that this chart is letting you know the percentage value with respect to the dollar values of each instrument, right? And over time, T shares only go up and to the right. That's it.
Yep.
So that's to say that T-shirts do one thing and one thing only, and you have to remember that that is never going to change or stop, right? That's always going to be true because that's literally embedded in the code. It's designed to do that.
Yep.
So get your T-shirts. Do not wait because if you wait, it's gonna leave you behind.
Yeah,
So
it's basically like the system, right? They buy back their supply. So like I think about, like I'm a watch guy, and so I think about like what, like Richard Mille tries to do.
right.
Whereas like if Richard Mille sees like a cheap Richard Mille on the market, they buy it and they'll resell it for hundreds of thousands more.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's this thing where like you turn in your T-shares back to the Hex system, right? And then they raise the price, and they're like, you want it back? All right, well, you're gonna have to pay more, and it's
Right.
like people don't think about it like that, but it's like it's so bullish. It's so bullish because it's like every time you want to get it back, well, you got to pay, motherfucker. You got to pay
Correct.
to play.
Yeah,
So
correct. I mean, that's crazy, right? Because people say, it's funny because I had to explain to somebody the other day, like, yo, do you know these luxury brands? Like, I didn't know that that's what they did because
yeah,
I
it's not
just,
just them. There's other brands
well,
like
I did
HEX.VISION and
know
stuff.
that
Yeah.
luxury
Hmm.
brands in general, get their product and sell and burn that shit. They just,
Yep.
they buy it back and get rid of it, whatever it
Yeah, there's
is.
like there's things that depending on the luxury brand, like they don't go on sale, right? Like, do you think Louis Vuitton has to have a clearance?
Right,
It's the same thing with Rolex, right? Like,
right.
walk into any Rolex boutique, you cannot buy a stainless steel sports model. It's not possible. I mean, you can't even like a lot of times you can't even get a women's watch anymore. You
Wow,
got to pay over sticker for all of that stuff because it's all in the secondary market.
that's
So,
crazy,
you
bro.
know, yeah, and it's crazy because like Hex, this is literally built in. It's like there's not anybody like taking advantage of the system. It's literally built into the system where they're going to buy back their stock and raise the price on you the next time. So how
Yep.
do you beat that? You stake longer, right? You stake longer.
Yep.
So you hold on to that for the longest amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Mm. I was streaming with Dollar Cost yesterday. We was talking about staking, and a lot of people know, a lot of people don't. But my staking average is 14.6 years. 90% of my T shares are for the max. ninety
Yeah.
percent,
Yeah,
and
I mean that's smart because when that
right.
when that time comes, like the way that like if you built a staking ladder is that like after that 15 years, you're hitting 15-year stakes every single year. So it's like,
Yep.
can you be patient for that amount of time? And then you're gonna reap max reward every single year
Yeah.
after that.
It's
Oh,
gonna
it's
be
unbelievable.
crazy. Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
my onboards, I always tell them, I say, because I see it all the time on Twitter, like these plebs, no offense, I call a lot of people plebs, but these plebs talking about like, oh, well, the unstaking fees, and I'm like, I mean, if you're not a multimillionaire, what are you doing unstaking? Like, you're not staked long enough. Like,
Right.
give the system time to like help you. So
Exactly.
for my onboards, I'm always telling them like the earliest you should do is 5 years. Don't even think about doing anything before 5 years.
Right.
So they
That's a
worked
good
their way
number.
back from yeah, so they worked their way back from 15, to 5. And the reason I say 5 is like because, based on like the history, like 5 could at least get you to a point where like if something happens in your family or what, you never know what's going to happen with life.
Hmm.
You're giving it enough time to like help you, right? You need a new
Right.
car, you need something like that. Like, you're letting the system work for you. But less than 5, like what are you doing?
Yeah, I've always thought three was a good number, but five is just better. So you can't go wrong.
Yeah, I like to think five because five is like pretty safe when it comes
Hmm.
to like a market cycle, right?
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
have to
yeah, yeah.
think that like if the crypto market cycles are lengthening, the next one could be like, 7 years away or, like, or take 7 years to get back to, like where it's manic or whatever.
Hmm.
So 5 years is is a pretty good number, historically in Bitcoin, if you bought at any point within 3 years, you're in profit. So to me, 5 years is like you're solid, right? And if you're
Yeah,
gaining that extra percent for another 2 years, yeah, that's pretty good.
yeah, yeah. There you go then. Right, because it's just about making money.
Yep, that's
So
why we're
whatever,
here.
yeah, whatever makes the most sense. So five is definitely the better number, right? And that's exactly why 90% of my t-shirt, my t-shirts are fucking max,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, like I like it's very simple. You when you sign up to stake something, you're literally getting a 66% discount off the rip.
Crazy.
Off the rip. You're getting three t-shirts for the price of one.
And the thing that like people don't realize is like if you're not a whale, you're literally bleeding out the whales. So like
Yeah.
people get mad about like like there's a lot of whales that have crazy amounts of money that are short staked.
Yep.
It's like, yo, you're bleeding those guys out. You're literally like gutting them like with like 1,000 small daggers.
Yep.
You're just like
It is a death
hitting them,
by a
and they're
thousand cuts, and it really
yeah,
is.
exactly, exactly. And they don't even realize that they're like slowly bleeding out to the minnows, and then the minnows become like, sea bass, and then sea bass become like tuna, and it's like boom, now they're dolphins, now they're sharks,
Right.
now they're killer whales, because over those years, those whales have bled out so much and they're like feeding the ecosystem. So it's like every time I see that, I'm like, cool, cool. And I think the reason that people get upset about it is because they're like, oh, if they want out, they're going to murder the price. Okay, well, you're like, you're fucking yourself, bro. Like, you're fucking
Right.
yourself because
Pretty
I
much.
know in the long term, the game theory is going to work. So
Yeah.
if you want to fuck yourself, cool, because you're
Yeah.
already doing that. You're already doing that by thinking so short term.
Yeah. I wish my first. I wish all of my t-shirts were max, right? Because ever since I got to that point where I was like done staking and done buying for like to stake like that,
Hmm.
like now moving forward, what I'll be doing is I'll be filling in, the shorter gaps, right?
Yeah.
Even though the goal is to ultimately get to the point where, Hex is high quality collateral, we don't actually have to sell it. You know,
Hmm.
that's the ultimate goal for Hex, right? Whatever that ends up looking like, that's what the ultimate goal is. In my mind anyway, that's what I think Hex will ultimately become because it's just that good, right?
Yeah, I
When I
think I think like at the end of the day, like, time will go on, and like I know some guys that have huge, huge bags, huge, like some of the biggest, stakers in the space. It's like they can't sell their entire bag; they would murder the price. So, you just scoop a little interest here or there, but it's more than enough for anybody to ever possibly need.
for
And
sure.
so I think that it gets like that for, pretty much everybody who's in the system now, is that you'll just skim a little bit of percentage, and it's like more money than you ever could have imagined, possibly having.
I mean, look
Um,
look at this chart, right? So this chart is the T-shares in market cap terms, right? So what we're doing here is we're taking the quantity of T-shares and multiplying it by the price, right? So that T-share count, which is the 10 million trillion shares, right? And then we multiply it by the price of the T-share. So it's $37.5 billion, right? This is just year
mhm,
two. It went as high as 70 billion, right? This is
it's crazy.
just year two. Yeah, it's
It's
very
crazy.
crazy. It's very crazy.
It's gonna do numbers that like people you can't think about, right? Because I'm like, hey, what's after trillion, right?
Right. Exactly. Quadrillion, I think it is. Quadrillion.
Yeah, exactly. Like when was the last time you heard quadrillion anything?
Exactly. I mean, and we got companies now that are $1 trillion worth companies, right? Like
Right.
Google,
Yep.
Microsoft, Apple, right? Like those are the
Hmm.
three main culprits. I think.
But who's really getting helped by that, right? Like, do you ever hear anybody? I've never met anybody that wasn't like like super early in Google that's like benefiting their life, right? Whereas like Hex, how many people has like Hex changed their lives in just 2 years?
Oh yeah, thousands of people.
Yeah, it's not even like a comparison, right?
No,
So
it's
it's
not.
like over time, what is Hex going to do for the world? You know, you got
I'd
people like
imagine.
us that devote our time to helping people, to onboarding, to talking, you know, like we talk about it all the time. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, like
every day,
I talked,
every
yeah,
day.
and I talked about it on stream. Like he might even be listening to this now, but like when we were in Miami, uh, we all, me, Motley, I can't remember who else was there, but we went out for coffee, and I saw this guy with a Bitcoin shirt and a Bitcoin hat on, and I was like, "Yo, should we go talk to him?" And he's like, "Oh," Molly was like, "I don't know, you know, like they don't, you know, they don't really like us." And I said, "Yeah, I mean, but like I'm nice. I'm just gonna go up and like talk crypto to him, you know, like
Yeah.
whatever." And I went up to him. He never heard of Hex before, and I explained everything to him. I explained like why it's similar, why it's different. The guy constantly now is buying the dip. He's constantly
Wow.
buying the dip. Like he's a full blown Hexican now, bro.
Look at
And it's just
that.
because I went up to him and you know I had the balls and like I'm not even like you know I'm not a very you know like kind of person that will just go up. You know, I'm more of an introvert, like socially. You know,
Right,
I don't
right,
like go
right.
up and like I just stay in my lane. You know, but like Hex has made me to the point where it's like I want to go out and tell people, especially if I know somebody is into crypto or somebody is into finance. It's like I gotta talk about it, right? So I walked up to him, we're talking about it, you know, and he was like, "Man, like my mind is blown. Like I cannot believe that, you know." He's like, "You know, I know that there's like crypto people out here really winning, but like how are all you guys like winning like this? And I didn't even know that it existed." You know, and he's like, "Wait, why don't I know that this exists? Where are you guys on CoinMarketCap?" I'm like, "Oh, let's talk about that, bro." They literally closed the coffee shop on us while we were talking because we were talking for so long. You know what I mean? And and he was like completely like, you know, red pilled on Hex. And like he messages me all the time now and he's like, "Yeah, I'm buying the dip. I'm buying this dip." And I'm like, "Bro, I'm proud of you because you know you get it. You get it." And there's so many people that don't. So it's awesome. But yeah, I mean like and who's he gonna, you know, spread the message to, you know? It's like who out here from Bitcoin is like really winning? Like there's not that many, you know. So I just think
Oh
that
boy.
over time, you know, the message is so good. It's just going to keep, you know, spreading and spreading and spreading, and that's what like true virality looks like. But it's like, yo, we're not even at 100,000 stakers. Like we're not even a big city, and we got a whole world to tell about this. You know, it's like I can't even you know begin to think like what everything is going to look like when we hit 1 million stakers.
Yo, it's gonna be crazy, right? Joe, it's fucking crazy today. It's non-stop noise, bro. Damn, they
I'm like,
killing.
damn, are they shooting out here?
Nah, it's just these stupid these stupid bikes that these cats is using out there. They're just
Oh,
noisy.
okay, I got you, got you, got you.
Noisy for no reason, bro. My God. Anyway, so check this chart out. Notice this left-hand column. This left-hand column is a total value locked per staker, right? So for every person staked, this is the average dollar value, right, per staker, right?
Wow.
Boom. Check the scale. 524, 262, 131, 653, or 655, right? 3278. Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you the power values of two. All right. 524, 288. 524, 288. 262, 144. 262, 144. 131, 072. 131, 072. You see what's going on here?
Yeah, it's crazy. We talked about that last stream where there was
Right?
like that correlation, and it's like it's crazy.
Yeah, and just look at where the price rests every time. Like
Yep.
it's crazy, man. It's still doing it. This is probably why price doesn't go below this level because this is just one of those levels where price has to sit there, just rest, do its thing, and then just boom, takes off. Because no matter what they do, it doesn't break it. It just doesn't break it. I mean, it's
Wow.
just crazy. I mean, every time I talk about it, it's phenomenal. I'm just like, wow. Because this is exactly what I've been talking about all this time because it just has that respective behavior about it, right? I mean, when you go
Hmm.
back to this chart, sorry, This is basically what's being shown here too, right? 512, 1, 2, 10, 24, 2048, 4096, right? These are the same values, right? They're basically the same values, right? 8192, 16384, right? 4096, right? So it's showing you the same thing, just differently, right? 81920, right? 61638. Like this was the first way I described it, but
Hmm.
it's not as clear cut as it is with the other one. Like
You're gonna need a
it's
bigger chart before long,
yeah,
the way it's
yeah.
looking.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, it's gonna keep happening because that's the thing that
Yeah,
people don't understand about this system. It's literally designed to double.
yeah,
That's it. So what's more interesting is when you look at what where the price was at the time of this value being attained, because we hit this value, right?
right.
We hit it. See, we were basically at 51 cents. So
Yep,
51 cents and equals 19 is 51 cents and equals 20 is a buck and equals 21, $2,
yep.
$4, 8, 16, 33, etc., and so on. Right. So this is what's going to happen with the hex price over time because that's just what it's designed to do. And the longer you hold on to those T-shares, the greater value you're going to be able to extract from the system yourself, because that's the point of the system for you to engage with the code and extract this value. Because the again, right? Look at this chart, please. Look at the scale. Look at how this moves. It is
Hmm.
not a coincidence that all of the stops, whether up or down, coincide with one of these values. It is not a coincidence. Respect that. Understand what this is saying. Because this is basically what my first video was on how Hex is literally log based 2 system. And I showed it already here on this first chart. It's the
Yeah,
same
that's
thing.
awesome. So that's basically saying the next cool off period could be at $1.04.
Correct.
Oh man, over $1,
At a
boys.
minimum.
Woo,
At a
you
minimum.
hear it.
At a minimum.
And
Right? I
people
mean,
won't buy for 15 cents.
they
Get
won't.
out of here.
They'll
Oh
buy
my
it at a
God.
dollar. They'll buy it at a dollar because it
Unbelievable.
feels safer.
Unbelievable. It does feel safer, right? Why is that? Just because you associate, we've talked about it before with like Louis
Uh-huh.
Vuitton stuff. It's like you associate value, the more expensive things are,
Yep.
right? So it's like you got to trick your stupid lizard brain, like, my God, it's unbelievable.
Oh man. It is crazy, yo. It just don't make any sense. I don't understand it. I can't comprehend. Like to me, it's such a no-brainer trade to find a product that is so good and so undervalued that you got to stop doing shit to just acquire it. Like I literally stopped paying the rent because it was that obvious.
Oh yeah, yeah, I totally
Like
get
when
it.
I found Hex, I was like, "Oh hell no. No, 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 no. I got to do what I got to do." Like that was the bullet that had to be bit because the obviousness of that trade. I've
Yeah, absolutely.
outperformed the Big Short, bro. I can't be mad.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And it's funny because there's a lot of us out there that are doing really, really, really well,
Yeah.
and like, we still are always trying to like, live a little bit cheaper so we
Yep.
can get more, so we
Correct.
can get more. And I'm constantly buying.
That's right.
It's one of those crazy things, and I love to see it. I love every time I go in the comment. I was in a video earlier today, and some guy was like, "Why are you guys?" I think it was like Gerardo's video, but he's like, "Why are you guys buying this shit? Like, what is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Man, that just shows you that's another 100x right there." It's like when people are still saying like scam, why the fuck are you buying this? Like
Oh
100x,
shit.
boy, 100x. Thanks for the next
Oh
100x.
my.
Like that's the way I see it because like when everybody wants it is when it's gonna really really like cause some pain. But like
Right.
these guys are still calling it a scam. I mean, let
That's
me tell you,
crazy.
people were calling ETH a scam at $45.
Yeah, they were. I might have been one of them too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, there's plenty of people that were, and you know, so like if you know, you know, and
Yeah,
you know, what's that called? Information asymmetry. Do you
yeah, it
understand why
is.
Hex is not a Ponzi scheme? If you understand why Hex is not a Ponzi scheme, and many people are calling it a Ponzi scheme, that's called asymmetric, you know, information, which is,
Yeah,
you know, another word for alpha.
yeah,
Okay. Anytime you can get alpha on anything in investing, the returns are very asymmetric, meaning that you can make a lot of money with that information.
because
Okay.
everybody's
We
gonna be
have
late.
that information. Yeah. Everybody's
Yep,
gonna be late. You're early. You're early.
extremely early. I mean, just look at what's happening in Pulse still, right?
Yeah.
You still have like 2 days ago, somebody sacrificed 2.6 million. No, 3 days ago, somebody sacrificed
Hmm.
2.65 million USDC. Then 2 days ago, somebody sacrificed 100,000 hex, and yesterday somebody sacrificed 100, 100, no, $28,000. Let me pull up the damage adjust. Let's look at that thing because it's crazy, bro. How people are still sacking. Like, wow,
It's
it's
unbelievable. Like people are really bad at math.
yeah,
It always blows my mind because, like, okay, I was somebody that in high school I failed math every year. Like pretty much
yeah.
every
I
year I
was
failed.
not a brainiac either in
Yeah, it
math.
was not good, but you know, when I became a nurse, I had to like put a lot of effort into learning, you know, math and stuff because, you know, obviously like people's lives depend on it. You got
Right,
to get decent at
right.
math. And you know, like it's crazy to me because also finance is life or death, right?
Yep.
And you know, like you got to take your freedom seriously. So if you're not good at least basic math, you need to learn some basic math, especially like, you know, power of, right? You got to learn like X's and, you know, all that kind of
Whoa.
stuff, like how much you got to put in to get this money back. You know, like you got to understand percentages and X moves at least in investing.
Yep.
Because sometimes, like when I see people do stuff like this, I'm like, yo, you don't know what you're
Yo, what
talking
the
about. You don't know what you're
fuck?
doing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I thought I was seeing a big number, but no, that was just my eyes playing tricks on me.
Oh, okay. But we already know it's going to happen again. And it's
Yeah,
like,
but
it's
it's
compounding
just
every single day. Like it's one thing to be
yep.
5%. It's
Four
another thing when it's
days.
like 5% compounding every single day. And
Yep.
it's like, yo, every day that you're waiting, you're just getting fucked, like
Yeah.
royally fucked.
So 4 days, 20 hours ago, 2.652 million USDC. That's what the transaction was. So yeah. Matter of fact, let me pull it up so people can see it and me not just talk about it like a weirdo. Where are we? Here we go. Uh, 2.65 man, million into the Pulse Chain Sacrifice wallet. I mean, that just screams bullish as hell to me. But wow, to see that, I mean, that's just it's crazy, bro. It's crazy. People
Mm,
are really just going all in and not paying attention to what they're doing. That's kind of the way I view that.
wild.
Yeah, like that shit is very wild. Imagine
People
2.6
people are
million.
saying that it was the address that was swapping shitcoins into USDC. But okay, even if that wasn't $2 million, there literally in the last like 2 weeks, there's people that put hundreds of thousands in.
I
So
mean,
it's
yeah,
still,
look at
yeah.
this.
Either way,
There's
it
still other
don't matter.
coins on this list. There's still more value that's been transmitted. So yeah, it's still a ton. It doesn't really change, right? I mean, it's
Hmm.
still got a lot of money being put into this thing.
Yep.
Still, I mean, look, this is 136,000 right here.
Yeah. Wild.
So
And like for how much the price would have to go up to get that money back, it's actually insane.
yeah, exactly. Because we're 100+ days removed from that point in time already, man. This was, when the hell did the sacrifice end? In August 2nd. We're already
Hmm.
about to be in December 2nd. So that's a whole 120 days. Like that's crazy.
Wild. Wild.
Yeah. 120 days to to the power of five or whatever the math is there. I can't think clearly on that one right now, but you get the gist. It's a whole damn lot.
Hmm.
Like
Yep.
damn, Like, damn, right? So let's talk about this, right? Because this is kind of um, the whole point behind being staked, right? Like you see these people coming in late to the sacrifice, and they're taking a hit, right?
Hmm.
Instead of being early. In this case, timing did matter, right?
Right.
But when we're talking about staking, that doesn't really take effect here. So let's talk about these elements on this chart. In yellow, we have the dollar cost of a T share. In pink, we have the dollar cost of Hex at 1,750. Oh, I'm sorry, the dollar cost of 10,000 Hex at $1,750. And then in orange, we have the APY at 37.35 at last reading last night. And then we also have the staked percentage of coins at 9.78, which is increasing our APY, right? Because the way the system works, the max capacity for the inflation that it's going to pay out is 3.69%. So if 9.78% of the coins are staked, that means that you're at least going to get more than 36.9% because you're at less than 10% capacity,
Right.
right? Because that's 10% of 100%, which would
Yep.
be 3.69. So that means it would be 3.36.9% because you're above that number anyway. I'm sorry, below that number anyway, that threshold, because it's like really like a threshold thing. So this is why the APY is so high. And as you guys can see, the spikes here, this is a representation of upside volatility, right? And how it's strictly to the upside. That's
Yep.
superlative, right? Like that's something that doesn't happen anywhere else. When I was talking to some big money guys last week, I pointed this out to them, and they like really wrapped their head around that before we was done with that call, and that was the end of that conversation. Like those guys are, there's gonna come a point where we're gonna get priced out, and people need to be not playing around right now because it's
Yep.
coming. It's honestly coming because there's nothing that works like Hex, right? This magenta line is called the T-share rate, right? And this line is being driven by those big short-term stakers because they're going in and out, in and out, in and out of the system. And when their stakes are sizable, they're repricing it, right? They're repricing the T-share. And that's okay because ultimately, for those little guys like you and me that got a lot of long stakes, right? Like we're gonna benefit long term from that because they're ultimately, like we discussed earlier, pricing themselves out of the system because they can't keep their hands still.
Yep.
So we
Yep. And it's
ultimately,
it's it's crazy because if you look at like the smartest guys, right? Like the God whale, like man, that guy staked for a long time. Like he don't
yeah,
give a fuck.
nope,
It's like, yo, you want to emulate people like that have really won.
exactly, exactly, and I already knew, right? That's why when I found
Hmm.
Hex, to me, that was like a no brainer. To me, once I figured out what the T-shirt was, how it worked, and all of that, like it was already in line with what I was already looking to do. That was the thing for
Yep.
me. That's what made it so easy for me to just do everything at 5 5 5 5. Like I got,
Yeah,
I
and
don't,
we say all the time, it's like an IQ test, right? Well, it's like
yeah,
you passed because you got it, and you were like, okay, like I'm gonna leverage my time, right? Like I want to be like a big boy, like I'm gonna leverage my time, and you fought that because it's not natural to say, okay, I'm gonna kiss my money away for
it's not,
this long. You know
it's
what I'm
not
saying? That's fighting. That's fighting your natural feelings. But you said you did the math, and you're like, yo, I did the math. Like I know, I know what this is fixing to pay.
right,
So you
right,
did it, and hey, you passed the test.
right,
It is what it is. There's many people that can't pass this test, and they're bleeding out. There's like you got people that probably have under 100,000 net worth, and they're staking short term, and it's like, okay, you're paying hundreds of dollars in gas fees when you're barely worth 100 grand. Like,
yep,
what are you doing? Your ROI, like on your net worth is getting hit. You know what I'm saying?
big
Like if
time.
you
You're
got an
getting
average stake
depleted,
year
bro.
of 14 years, your net worth is going up, up, up to the right. You know,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy how they. I mean, the games that are played, right? It's
Hmm.
wild because if people just realize how simple this game is, it's really simple. Imagine I literally got in to the majority of my hex position down here. So my cost basis is probably like 0.004 or some crazy shit like that.
And you probably felt late.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Bro, I
See,
actually did. Right?
so
I
it's
I
so crazy
actually
though,
did.
right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, you're like,
super
man,
crazy.
fuck. Look, there's people staking for, hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, I'm late. But then it's like, oh shit. When you're looking back, you're like, oh damn. And I bet you next year, if we stream next Thanksgiving, what do you think it's gonna look like? Come on, you know.
Right.
It's like all these people getting in or waiting to get in. They think they're late now, and it's like, oh, you're really not because it's all
Nah.
relative, right?
Yeah.
Somebody who got in at Bitcoin when it was $4,000, yeah, I mean, it's 10 years into Bitcoin, but they're all up, over 10x now. Like, so it's just like it's all relative.
Right. Whereas if you bought it a year ago, you might or might not be up. But you
Hmm.
know, that's
Yep.
just the name of the game. You get on the train. When you get on the train, and you just got to be willing to hold on, and that's what people got
Yeah,
to
and if
realize.
it turns against you, you DCA more.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
but
literally
but
it.
truthfully, like if you have dollars coming in, you got to put them to work. So when you find a product like Hex, like it's a no-brainer to me. I always am DCAing, right? I'm always DCAing because I got dollars coming in. Like I'm putting them puppies to work.
Right. Too funny, man. And this is
Hmm.
why you got to respect that T-share rate, right? When you got that
Oh yeah.
T-share rate, when you understand how it works, right? How the T-share rate is literally the dollar cost of a T-share divided by the dollar cost of 10,000 hex. And you end up getting this number, right? Which is like 1 point whatever, in this case, 1 point, oh, I didn't put the thing on that. 1.95 something or another, 1.947 or
Hmm.
something. And then they multiply by the base rate of the T-share, which is 10,000 because that's where it started. So that's where you
Right.
get your 19,000, and we'll go to the next chart because it's going to be there, 19,565 from, right? And once you understand that, you realize that there's a cost to this thing in real life, right? And that's what this number above it from the blue line is giving you, which is the real-time T-share cost, right? That's the real-time T-share
Hmm.
rate because that value is coming from these two numbers right now. So let me show the crowd exactly how that works. 34, 6, 6, what is that? 80 and then 17, 4, 7. Yeah. All right. So there you go. Multiply this by 10,000 and boom, we got our 19,690.7, which we round up, right? And we end up seeing it as a 1 on the chart. But that's pretty much it, right? This is giving us the real-time cost of a T-share based on market demand, right? Because the market is demanding that premium outside of what the system is invoking from us, right? But when we're
Hmm.
paying for it, this is what we're actually paying for because that was the real time price at that point in time,
Right.
right? And that's what the system is charging us when we're paying for those hex with fiat, right, in real time. And that's important to understand because there's always a premium in this market, always, right? And
Hmm.
this chart is showing just that, right? So this blue line is called the forward T-share rate, and the forward T-share rate is just the real-time value of a T-share based on the actual dollar cost of a T-share and 10,000 X in real time.
Hmm.
So we get this value, but this value is what the system is charging you, right? So you got to understand the difference of the two. And this is where we get this so-called T-share basis from. And this is just the premium that the market is charging you because that's the difference, right? You got this 19,691, and then what the system is charging. So when you're paying for it, while the system isn't charging you for it, it's not because you already paid for it.
Hmm.
So, that's why it's important to understand when this line goes like in this mode where it's below the pink, the blue is below the pink. That means there's a, a surplus. That means you're actually going to get more value for your buck. Actually, and those
Hmm.
days are gone, right? Because now the system is fully vetted, is out there. People understand how it works. They're not playing games, right? They're not waiting around to stake. Like they're just getting it in. And this
Hmm.
is reality showing you that. Like this is data from the system showing you that. And once you like wrap your head around that, you really are achieving, next level understanding, as Kareem would say, because you got to really get what the system is trying to tell you, right? Like it's not obvious to everybody. It wasn't obvious to me at first that I needed to not mess around and stake everything ASAP. Like I waited until I
Right.
fully understood, right? Even though ultimately I should have just staked everything 5, 5, 5, 5 from day one and been done with it, but
Right.
I didn't know that, right? Until I figured that out. And that's the thing. Like everybody needs to know the full benefits of the system so that they can know how to use it exactly, right? Because everybody doesn't want to
Absolutely.
have everything at 5, 5, 5, 5. Like I get that. So that's why everybody needs to know, hey, this is what the system is saying. This is what, the most beneficial thing for you to do is, take it into account and understand that this is probably a once in a lifetime position and treat it as such. Like, look at this chart, the value
Yep.
proposition chart. You've never seen price trade below this orange line like this in a long time. So, this is a moment in time that we're
Hmm.
not going to see again for a long time. And
Yep. So it's all on how you're gonna, if you're gonna take advantage of it. You
yeah,
know.
it's crazy, man. It's
And
so
so
crazy.
someone in the chat was asking, like, well, what happens when the APY drops, right? And so, there's multiple ways to think about that. If the APY drops, he was saying 5% for a 1 year stake. Well, you're either
That
cool with
one.
that or you're not cool with that, right? So if you're not
Is it
cool with
this
that, you're
one?
going to stake longer, right? Yeah. And so
Yeah.
it's like, if you're not cool with that, you're going to stake longer. And
Yeah.
if you are cool with that, then fine, you're getting bled out, right? That's the beauty of the system. Now,
Yep.
when more people stake longer, what happens to price? Supply and demand dictates that we go up, right?
Yep.
If supply, goes down, then and demand stays the same or goes up, price goes up. Now, you could ask, what is the long-term perspective of when the APY really, really drops, like long term? Well, for one, look at Bitcoin, right? Like what are the numbers that like, Bitcoin could go to? I mean, truthfully, like Bitcoin and other cryptos are, like hedges against, inflation and like what's going on in the world. Well, Hex is that, but also pays a yield, right? Which is very valuable. And it's not like a bond where it just pays it in the dollar, right? So you're kind of
Right.
like, it's capital protection. So what is like, who is going to stake for 5% for long term? Banks, countries, companies. The same thing that you're seeing now with Bitcoin, but we're so early that it's like you're not even thinking about that, right? You're not even
Right.
thinking about the long term case. So yeah, I mean, and by then, the price would be astronomically high. I mean, astronomically high.
Right.
Like you probably won't even be tuning into streams, at that
No,
point, because it's like, yeah,
not with us on them. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah. It's like we've done our part.
Right.
The price hits
Right.
$1 million. Like, yeah, we're done.
We've done what we can, folks. Thanks for
Yep,
tuning in.
yep. Pass. Yeah, that's all, folks. Pass the torch off.
Oh man, yeah. Look, for the APY to go that low, you need every T share in the system to like fully come out, and that would cause the price of a T share to go to literally the moon. Um, that would like like the price would balance itself out. So that 5% that you're talking about would really be a lot more than you're thinking.
Hmm.
Right. So that's something you also have to take into account because this is a fixed income product, right? So it's going to also do the bond math at the same time. So you got to also take that into account. So when the APY does go down, that means the value of that each respective hex is going to skyrocket because it has to. That's the only
Yep.
way the APY is going to work because I just explained that in order for that system, right, to go down that much, let's go back to this chart. For this to go down to 5%, I mean, this has got to go below here, first of all. So this number has to go all the way up to like 85%. and it's only
Crazy.
at 9.78. So
I don't think people realize how high the price
yeah,
would be if that happened. I mean,
yep.
it's
Everybody
literally
needs to
like
chill
you
out with
cannot
that one.
even think. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can't even think about it.
nah, like it's just not a realistic thought. Like the
Yeah.
amount of buying that needs to happen is crazy. 20% is realistic. That's a realistic concern.
Hmm.
That's something that might take us to 10, $20. Maybe not. Who knows? But that's a realistic concern. But
Yeah.
not 5%, bro. I'm sorry. I don't think that one's ever coming. Especially not on ETH. Maybe on the
Yeah.
PHEX side. But East side, I don't know about that one. What do you think? Do you think 5% is achievable on the East side? I don't think that's ever going to be achievable.
I don't know because like it's really hard to say what's going to happen like long term. Like ETH could potentially find solutions to scaling, and so then like EHEX could be. And so like let's hypothesize, right, that you have a bunch of EHEX, right? Like let's say all these like these big guys that are liquid.
Yeah.
Let's just say that everybody 5555s it because you're like, well, let's just see what happens. Like we don't know what's going to happen. If everybody does that and EHEX becomes super rare and PHEX is so cheap to stake that people tend to stake it shorter, then theoretically EHEX could be way more scarce, and so the
Ooh.
price could go up a lot. Um, so I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to picture what could possibly happen, and that's why I say sometimes like the best move is to just like not try to like speculate on it too much and just be like, what, I'm just going to stake it out and see what happens, because what's the worst, that it doesn't work out, it goes
Yeah.
to zero, you still got your copy, right?
Yep.
If it does, if Ethereum does do crazy numbers and solve scaling and stuff like that, and you have another like value of hex and you 555 the entire bag, could be
Imagine.
could be crazy.
Yeah, imagine having an Ethereum version, a E 2.0 version, a Pulse
Hmm.
version. Like, wow. Yeah,
Could be crazy.
I wouldn't be mad at that at all. That's a fact.
Yep.
Shoot. Yeah, that'd be great, bro.
And people could treat it like, like let's say there is like a price disparity, right, where like one is $1 and one's 20 cents. People could start
Right.
buying the 20-cent one
Yep.
to, what I mean? So like you could
Yep.
have that. So like as time goes on, maybe that prevents the crazy like amount staked for longer, right? But there's also like value proposition on both chains there.
Yeah. I mean,
You know
that's
what
the
I mean?
thing,
So like
bro. Like,
it would take it longer to get to 1 million, but maybe like, they both get to $500,000
yeah,
each. You
but
know what I mean?
yeah.
Which
Like,
is the same.
what's changed, right? That wouldn't force people to not want to buy Hex on. Because you're still going to go to hex.go.hex.com and stake. You're still doing everything the same. It's just going to be a
Hmm.
different chain, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, like as long as the community doesn't abandon it, I mean, the people are going to see a discount. Like at some point, like people get greedy, like we were talking about before,
Yeah.
and so if it's down 80%, maybe they're like, okay, it's good. Maybe it's 95%, maybe it's 98%, but people are going to go in at some point and be like, okay, like let me scoop all this shit up and just like stake it way out, and just see,
Right.
just as a gamble. And so like when that happens, then people could be like, oh shit, it's going up. Like let me rebuy it back. You never
Right.
know. You just don't know. So yeah, it could be, but I think there's potentially room for both. It's early now. It's early now to have two, but in the long run, if ETH solves its scaling and stuff, it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, that's assuming that they actually want to achieve that goal. I'm not so sure they actually want to achieve that
Well, I
goal,
think I
but
think it's so far out. I mean, because they're talking about like 2023 before they address scaling, which to me says 2025,
right.
which to me means like Ethereum or Pulse and Hex on the Pulse chain are going to be like full steam ahead by then. It's like we're
Right.
running shit over. So
Right.
yeah, we'll
Pretty
see.
much. Yeah, we'll
We'll
see. Good
see.
luck to them, man. They're going to need it.
Yep.
So, whatever works for them.
Hmm.
But yeah, like if you look at this chart, right, this chart is literally giving you the cumulative sum per T share, right, for each T share that's been paid out since inception. So right now we're at 3,164 hex per T share, right, and some change. and the price is at 17.5 cents. Well, that was as of yesterday. Today we are at 20.2 cents. So we're recovering ground with a high of 20.4. So this is the V2 pricing. So we're looking pretty good,
Nice.
man. We're looking pretty good. Um,
Yeah, definitely. I think people, people saw that we're like really overextended.
uh-huh.
It's a historically good time to buy right now, and
Yep.
people are going in. People are probably
That's
talking to
right.
family today and saying, "Hey,
You got to get some.
come on,
Yeah.
it's time, it's time."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's funny because that's what I was thinking also. I mean, look at this, right? Look at what happened to Hex 19, and shout out to him, man. It's a crappy story, but this is why the system works so well. You had an unfortunate event where somebody bags got messed with, right? And the net result was that at least the hacker gave the community back what was rightfully theirs in the first place, right?
hmm
Um, and that's the thing. Like even in essence, even he got some of his bag back, right? Because all his other stakes got some of his hex back,
yep,
right? And that's the genius design behind the system, and why it exists in the way that it does, and why all of us really they understand it well are staunch maxes of how it's designed to work, right? Because it
hmm
works so well. The game theory is so well thought out, and the code is so in line with the game theory that you can't really dismiss it. You got to respect it.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And this is going to continue to happen, which is why like
yeah,
I laugh when, people say, and maybe it's not even malicious, right? It could just be somebody that like stake their entire bag out too far and they like need the money, at like
right.
5, 7, whatever years. And so they're like, that's why I laugh when everyone's like, oh, the t-shirt payout's going to go down. It's like, well, you're going to have weak hands. And the amount of interest that will go to people
It's
is
gonna be crazy.
outrageous.
It's
It's
gonna be like
outrageous.
yesterday.
Yep.
That's what I think. I think it's gonna be, or 2 days ago. I think it's gonna be like ridiculous
Yeah,
double-digit
absolutely.
numbers.
Oh yeah, we're gonna keep hitting new highs on t-shirt payout for sure. And it's just funny because like people have been saying that for a long time, but like if you look, like the t-shirt payout has only gone up over time.
Yeah, exactly. Like look at this. Uh, okay, so let's go back. No, this
It's
is the
it's hitting
start.
6 now. It's hitting 6 now, like pretty regularly, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yesterday was 5.84. The day before it was 6, and the day before that was 5.9. Or
hmm
6.09 was yesterday, and then 5.9 the day before, and then we had the
Yep.
24 payout the day of
Whew,
the unfortunate event.
crazy.
But if you look at this index return for the payout t-shirt sum index, right? This is basically this orange line, right, in percentage form. 286,000, bro. 286,000%. So
Wow,
28,000x just by
I like
staking.
those numbers. Yep, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. And this yellow line is letting us know what the payout per t-shirt index has done, right? So the same thing with this pink line down here is just a daily payout index. So just two the same metric in different ways, right? This
Yep.
is the systemic figure, and this is the figure to each t-shirt, right? That's it. Um, but the interesting thing is that this metric just shows, just like you're going to see in the next couple of charts, is that the volatility is strictly to the upside. So your pay is always going to stay the same as far as the
Yep.
lower band goes.
Yeah, it's got like a baseline, but it can
Correct.
just pop. It can pop at any moment. And that's
Correct.
the greatest part, right? Is like, okay, so think about all these guys that are staking short that we talked about. And some of them are whales, right? Some of these guys that have like 5,000 T shares that they're staking short term. Well,
Yep.
what happens if it's on a day that they ended and they have to wait for the day to roll over to
Yes.
restake?
Right.
Like they just missed a huge payout that you got a higher percentage of because you're staked long. Like
Yep.
you gotta like you really gotta like salute the game theory. I mean, it's
It's
amazing.
it's phenomenal, bro. It's phenomenal because it gives that person that really has the intention, right, to sticking it out to the fullest, the opportunity to do his best to do so. Because in order for him to not, he has to damage himself,
Yep.
right? And that's
Yep.
critical. So critical because you cannot find that anywhere, right? It's so easy to wreck yourself.
It
So
really
easy.
is.
Yeah,
And
it's
how many
crazy.
times recently have we saw somebody like sell a bunch? Like what happened yesterday, right? Dude started like dumping a bunch, pushed the price down to like 15 cents, right? So that means he was selling and getting like 15 cents, right?
Right,
For like the last a bit of hex that he sold. And then he restaked for a couple years or whatever. Well, the price is 20 now. So he missed out on 5 cents per hex. Uh,
right,
like
right.
so it's like it's just comical to me. I'm like, okay, dump. You want to dump? Like I'm gonna buy it. Like I get it. Like if you want out, like you're getting out the wrong way, and you're just fucking yourself because you're impatient. Like if you
Yep,
want to do that, congratulations, you played yourself.
that's it. That's it, bro. That's literally it, right? And there's not much more to it, right? It's just not much more than that because what else is there, right?
Yep,
If the whole name of the game is making gains, then you know the easiest way of making gains is by doing nothing. Why not just take it?
it's crazy.
I mean, let's talk about the yield and how it's paid out, right? I got
Hmm.
this chart, which is actually great because what we have here is the price of X in red. Excuse me. Then we got the cumulative inflation that's been paid out, right? And minted,
Oh yeah, I love this chart. I love this chart.
right? And minted. And what we ended up getting after year one was 1.73% actually minted inflation. And this 1.96% was actually what was deferred to some point in the future.
I love this because people don't
It's
get this
crazy.
at all.
Yeah,
People
at
don't
all.
get this at all. Like this
Uh-uh.
this is one, man, that like you really got to see it and understand it. I think like in the beginning I didn't get this, and then the more I started thinking about, it, I'm like, okay, well, like you're counting inflation of coins that are 5555, right?
Yep.
So but that's not hitting the market right now. That's
Nope.
not hitting the market right now.
That's what this gray line is
So
talking about.
exactly. So then people say, well, how could the price go up? And it's like, do you even realize, like, and do you know what the inflation is right now? Do you know
Yeah,
what they're
exactly.
saying it is? What are they
Exactly.
saying it is? And then how many times have they changed the definition of inflation anyway? Right. So what it is and what it actually is, I mean, we're talking about under 2% inflation in hex, and we likely have seen 50% inflation in the last year. Like,
So
come on.
funny. It's so
Yeah,
funny.
it's like, what? And this is paying you a yield?
Yep.
What? And if you're staked longer than the average, you get zero inflation. Zero. Come on now. Man, people don't get it.
Not at all. I
Y'all
mean,
gonna learn though. You're gonna learn. You're gonna
and this
learn. You're either
chart,
gonna learn early or learn the hard way.
yeah, and this chart is actually a great tool to helping you understand. Like, look, so at the beginning, this is when Hex was most inflationary. This is why the
Yep.
inflation skyrockets like that.
Yep.
Because we went from 0 to 1.5% in really short order, right? Or one and
Right.
a quarter, 1%, whatever you want to call it, right? Like first, right, 100 days, right? Went from 0, because this is from day 360 on
Okay.
forward. So we picked the most consistent point with the inflation after big payday, right? We
Yeah, it
wanted to
makes
track
sense.
a standard inflationary measure, and that was it. So,
And if you look at the chart after big payday, it's very different. It's very
yeah,
different. And Gerardo has pointed this out like multiple times. It's like if you look like post big payday, it's been somewhat predictable, right? Like what the chart does
yep,
and stuff. So I
just a
think
bunch of bull
I think
flags,
we're
bro.
probably yeah, exactly. It's bull flag after bull flag after bull flag, and I feel like we're finishing up our dip, and then we're going to set up for that same type of movement again, and it's just going to be the same thing over and over and over again.
I mean, look, this is literally the inflation that has been minted so far. So we're seeing less than 50% of the inflation that's actually been minted, right?
Yep,
Like that
crazy.
is a fact, right? That is not, an opinion. Like that's literally what the system did. And that's, it's important to understand because that's why the price can be, look, let's see, 53% of the inflation for the first year has been deferred. 53. This is
Yep.
why we went from two zeros to no zeros.
Hmm.
We're just now hop, skip, and a jump away from hitting a buck.
Yep.
right? Like this is why, because the deflation is deferred, right? People are delaying gratification. They're waiting for later, right? This asset is really showing you its true store of value. This is it. This is showing you that it's a real store of value. This is it showing you right here, literally.
And how many people in Hex even know this, right?
Yeah, probably just
Prob,
those of us
pro-
watching it now. Like that's it.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And there's, I mean, think about the numbers, right? There's 70,000 stakers,
Mhm.
and there's 221 people tuned in right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Come on, guys. You guys, you don't get it. It's like even the people that get it, they don't get it.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy, right? Because this
Yeah,
shit is powerful, bro. It's
it
powerful,
is.
right? This is proof positive of how delayed gratification works in conjunction with price action, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is power, bro. This is whoever understands this, bro. Like they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I need to have as many long stakes as possible because the longer I can prolong what I need now, the better off I am, and that's not gonna be everybody.
For sure.
But you understand now for real that the system fully, right, fully wins when the gratification is delayed. This is what this is showing us,
Yep.
right? Like this is
And
crazy.
again, you're getting none of this, and you're getting price positive inflation when you stake longer than the average. So it's
Yep,
like if your average is longer than the average, you're getting zero inflation, and in fact, you're making more money than the inflation, which is insane.
yep. Because the system's gonna
And
pay you out in accordance with that.
that's not even counting fiat inflation. Because
Yeah,
when we
yeah, yeah,
talk
no,
about that, basically like Hex is deflationary in that sense. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Because like the inflation is so much more than our inflation that like Hex might as well be in deflationary. And that's
yeah,
why these assets
exactly.
work.
Yep,
That's why Bitcoin could inflate from 0 to 18, 19 million coins and go up 6 million, right? X, because the inflation is so much higher than Bitcoin's inflation, right?
right,
Because Bitcoin is inflationary. People think, oh, it's deflationary or, it's capped. Well, no, in our lifetimes, Bitcoin will always be inflationary. Literally, if you live, to the max, Bitcoin will be inflationary for you. So it's about our inflation versus the government's inflation against
right,
everything inflation. And
right.
our inflation is already low. Like it's lower than what you thought prior to tuning into this stream. I'm willing to
Correct,
bet that.
correct.
So,
and,
yep.
and this is why, yo, I laugh because people complain and talk and I'll say all this nonsense, and it's like, yo, you're not even looking at the right information, and you making comments.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Like how many people talk, right? Like a lot of people talk when they should listen.
Hmm.
A lot of people talk when they should listen. And it's like you're talking about something that you don't understand. And I think a lot of hexicans don't even fully understand hex, you know?
No, they
And
don't.
maybe it's still years away from all of us fully understanding it,
Correct.
you know?
Correct. I
There's
mean,
because
this
there's always
chart
things that
here
you
is
can
mind
learn.
opening, right? This chart
It
here is
is.
mind opening.
Absolutely.
I mean, imagine, right? We're sitting here talking about 3.69, 3.69, but in fact, the system is only generating 1.73% inflation. So
Exactly.
53% of that inflation we're over here parroting doesn't even exist.
Yep.
It's in the
Yep.
future somewhere.
Yep. And then of that, we're not comparing it to fiat inflation, which basically makes hex deflationary, which is why the
Hmm.
price is up so much, right? And we're not even talking about that inflation, the small amount of inflation that even exists in hex is irrelevant if you're staked longer than the average, if you're
Correct.
using hex the way you should.
Correct. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how each year, because I think I'm going to track them by year, by 365-day periods from day 360. And it's going to be
Nice.
interesting to see just how the inflations are going to defer themselves out over time, right? Because that's going to really speak to the network and how the new entrants are behaving or how the staking
Yep.
activity basically changes over time, right?
Yeah,
So
I
it's
mean,
going to be
personally, I think
interesting.
it's going to go up because like the guy was saying, what happens when it goes to 5% for the year? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but like if I was staked short I'm not doing no, 3% for a month. I would stake a year, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That would suck.
Yeah, it would.
It
And
would
a lot of these
suck.
guys they're printing so much money that like you don't even need it anyway. So like, why are you gonna stake for a month? Like, so
Yeah.
the average will go up, even
Yeah.
even
I
from
think
that.
over time, naturally, the average will go up, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what it's done so far. Why would it stop? Maybe
Yeah.
maybe it plateaus. Maybe it plateaus, and I don't know like around when. Maybe it's between 10 and 13 that it plateaus. But yeah,
Yeah. It'd
it's
be
got.
hard to
I
say,
think I
right?
think it's still got ways to go up for sure.
Yeah. 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 No, I agree with you on that one. Let's see this next chart. All right. So this shows the everybody gets paid chart, and this is just a bunch of payout per T-share moving averages. Here's the all-time moving average, 4.383 hex per T-share. And then we have the 55-day average in pink, and then the 28-day in orange. And of course, that one's going to be higher because it's short
Yeah,
term,
yeah, right.
6.594, and the 55-day at 6.137. And again, it's interesting that price is kind of finding a floor right here where they kind of met for a little period of time. Um, and now it seems like we're going to find a little floor and take a bounce on higher. Now this is the chart I wanted to talk about earlier. This is just the regular payout metrics, right? Total T-shares, daily payout in yellow, and the payout per T-share in magenta. And as you can see, yesterday it was 63.6 million with a 5.84 hex payout, and 10.898 million, trillion shares, right? So less than 11 million trillion shares in the system. And that's typically been like the top, that's like the marker for when the system has kind of reached full capacity lately, right?
Mhm.
um so it's interesting to see a number smaller than that for once, because it increases our APY, which I don't mind. um
Right.
uh, and the thing about this is you see you had this 24.36 reading here, payout per T-share in magenta, and then previous to that it was a reading greater than 10 for the first time, and then before that it was a reading close to 10. It was like 9.8 or 7 or whatever it was. I can't even remember, but it was a high number. And you see a baseline, right? Like you see this 5.84 number, and then you don't really see a move that pretty pronounced that goes lower than 5.7, maybe 5.69, right? Like when you look to the lower band of what could be these values, right? It's really static, right? And I don't think a lot of people really understand the significance in being staked and understanding that over time your pay is gonna be at least X. That's it. You
Hmm.
know, can't change it, you can't alter it, and
Right.
it can only improve from that point. It can't be worse. It can only improve from that point. Right? This is stability, and you can't find this in regular markets, right? This is something that you know, when you sit here and you take into account what is out there in the space, right? Whether it's crypto or fiat, nothing really works like Hex, right? And this is why it's so superior in so many ways and all this and that. And, this is just another nexus of that superiority, right?
Right.
You're getting paid daily, and then, come to find out, the only change in your payouts can be positive, not even negative,
It's crazy.
right?
And what you're
So,
getting paid in is so much better than,
yeah,
dollars. Like,
yeah.
come on.
It's a beautiful thing, man. It's a
It really
beautiful thing,
is.
and you can't be mad at it. Like you gotta just take it and ram it by, like grab it by the horns. Like it's crazy, right? And then you got the decorrelation aspect of it and how it's always zero, no matter what day of the year it is. It's always going to be zero because over time, it's always going to do its own thing. Like right now, X is ripping. What's Bitcoin doing? It's ripping, but it's pulling back a little bit. Whatever. Yeah, it's ripping, pulling back a little bit. Hex is probably pulling back a little bit too. Nope, it's probing and prodding. So you see, doing its own thing. What's ETH doing? ETH doing, pulling it back a little bit. So whatever, nothing crazy, but X is doing its own thing. right? And that's the whole point. It's not moving like the rest of the market, and the rest of the market typically moves in tandem, right? That's why even the little pullbacks you can see were happening, right? Again, right? Just like Bitcoin. You see, so that's just the reality of the rest of the space. X at all time highs, right? Naturally. So,
Yeah, and like I said before, like people will pay lots of money for that kind of
the
like
correlation and
decorrelation.
consistency.
Yeah.
And consistency, right? Because they know they're going to get paid every day that they hold this asset when they're staked. It's so simple. Look, when I talk to these people that, they talk this lingo, this Wall Street lingo, right? Like they understand because this thing, one day is I can't not see it like happening like this, where this doesn't actually become high quality collateral because of how it operates. Like, yo, to have an instrument that's superior to U.S. Treasury has never existed, right? Like it's never existed, right? This is a
Absolutely.
correlation versus ETH. This is a correlation versus Bitcoin is zero. I mean, there's just never been anything like this. And I think that when you sit there and you think about just what is possible, right? And you look at other markets, nothing like this can be achievable outside of the crypto space.
Yeah, it's funny. I think we said it before, but I think that like Hex is what so many people are looking for.
Yep.
And I don't know if I've talked about this on stream or not, but like I get like so angry when I see, like I'm on Facebook or whatever, and I see all these like single moms that are like preyed on by like MLMs,
Hmm.
and they're selling like X, Y, or Z for some middleman company. And the way that they take advantage of them is like, okay, well, you got to buy $2,000 worth of spandex, whatever leggings to like try to sell for more money. And like most women that do that are end up like unsuccessful, and they're kind of just preyed on. When I'm like, there's something here where you could take your $2,000 and you could earn yield on it for 15 years by doing nothing else. Because it's like it's an investment, right? Like
Yep.
an MLM is an investment. You're taking money and you're buying a product to like resell to people for more. But not everybody's a good seller, right?
Yep.
And so you got to like judge investments based on like your personality. And there's people that get like preyed upon by these things, and I see it all the time, where it's like, and then the market's like saturated, right? So it's like how many people that that are like friends on your timeline are like
Yeah.
selling Sensi or the same damn thing, right? So
Right.
it's like it just gets like saturated, where it's like, it's almost like a Ponzi, where it's like they onboard somebody, they get money for onboarding, and then they onboard somebody, they get money for onboarding. And it's not actually a Ponzi, but it's it's close enough, and it's borderline a scam, because like they play it off like you're going to be successful when we have something here that's so beautiful, and it's so amazing, and it would help so many people that they don't even know that they're looking for it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? Because when people talk about how they want to make mad gains and all this and all that, they don't really take into account what actions actually go into that. And
Yep.
that's why I think it's important to talk about, you know, just the simplicity and how that action really comes to be, right? Like, it's just like, we've all been talking about it for a while, right? And even we've had people that have exercised, some type of achievement from taking that action themselves online by, taking into account the God will, right? Like he was like, yeah, all you gotta
Hmm.
do is, stake the shit, like, just do yourself a favor,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
exactly. Like, it
Like
ain't
he
that
was
hard.
literally like that. Yeah.
Yep.
So, doing less equals more. And this is a simple
Hmm.
function of that, right? And it's by taking into account, like understanding something like this chart, where this chart is letting you know that the 55-day correlation, the 21-day correlation, and the 34-day correlation between the dollar cost of a T share and the dollar cost of X is still correlated to one. So what that means is that when price finally corrects and T shares take off, Hex is going to take off with it. Simple.
Hmm.
Because that correlation is damn near perfect, right? Like when you put it on a scatter plot chart, like the one I was showing previous, it's almost a right angle, right? And the correlation, instead of it being 0.00 something, is 0.69 something. Like it's almost a positive. There's a perfectly positive correlation, right? And this is what you want to see, and this is what you're seeing over time. Like
Yep.
this is why the flat line is there, because it's sticking close to one, and over a period of time it wasn't one, right? But now it's been one for various, fucking 6 months almost. So that's a long period of time for a system to operate so properly, right? And this is just a function of the code's design and how well it was made. So all in the data, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And
You
see,
know,
like, there's somebody in the chat just asked, what is so good about T-shares? Guys, we're so early. We're so early,
wow, let
man.
me
It's
see
just so
that.
funny. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like you can try to explain the stuff a million times, but you literally would have to say, it's funny because like when I first started listening to Richard, I was like, when he started streaming all the time, I was like, man, he's like saying the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah,
But
because
then,
he
but then
has
I
to.
realized the beauty about that is like, because well, there's new people all the time, and then if you hear the same thing over time, you like fully understand it to the point that you can also like repeat it for people and explain it to them.
Yeah.
So first you got to understand, Kunal, what is a T-share? Okay, a T-share is a percentage of the inflation, right? So what is the inflation? It's how you get paid. So it's a T-share. You might as well call it, like a money share, right? Because it's your share of the inflation. So what is the value in that? What do T-shares start at, and what are they worth now? What are people paying for them now? It's
Hmm.
like it's up and to the right, right? It only goes up in terms of like hex, right? So over time, what's it going to do? Up and to the right, up and to the right, up and to the right. So you're getting something that's very valuable in the long term, and not only is it valuable, it's paying something that has the opportunity. We've already talked about what actual inflation is and what hex actual inflation is, right? So the actual inflation of Hex is not currently 3.69%. It's, like about half of that, right? So you have currency inflating at between, 5 and 50%. You have Hex inflating at under 2%, and you have the opportunity to get something that is paying you, not in dollars, but in Hex. And you can lock that up and basically let the whales bleed out to you because you're leveraging time. Time is the most valuable asset that we have, and Hex found a way to monetize that. And you see it all the time. You see CZ, all these people talking about, if only you could monetize time. And Richard's always like, I did that.
Yeah.
Like he comments like, oh, it would be amazing if someone could do that. Oh wait, I
Yep.
did.
Did it.
And so like people don't, and how many times do we have to say that? This is something that when you really understand it, it's probably something you've always been looking for,
Yep.
right? You've always been looking for passive income. You've always been looking for this thing that you can hold on to long term, that's going to benefit you and your family, right? You're looking for something that you don't have to think about trading, right? You can set up a staking ladder, you can take some interest and restake principal, and you don't have to have that emotional connection to money, and it can allow you to live a very free life. Okay,
Right.
like that's what Hex is, and that's why we're trying to explain this to you, because just like the chat says, T-shares is money printers. That's what it is. That's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a similar system that functions like the Keynesian system, right? We're just at the closest end of the spigot, unlike the Keynesian fiat system, which
Hmm.
has us all the way towards the end of the spigot, or the system, the edge of the system. So that's the difference here. That's why it's important to understand the importance of X and the power that it brings to the table for us little guys that can participate, right? So I saw somebody in the
Yep.
comments mention that they can't even afford a T-share, and that's okay
You don't have to.
because you don't have to have a T-share. Back in my day, when a T-share was worth 50, $60, you got to realize it wasn't paying you anything. So
Right.
what you're putting up in economic power now is relatively accurate to what you should be getting, because you have to earn that yield from the system, and that's going to come with time. So
Yep.
in order for you to get the same caliber of output that I get from the system, you have to put in a year in the system like I have. Simple.
Yep.
So you
And
can't.
and like not to mention, like if you're DCAing but staking out longer, like the price and the amount of like hex is like is less of a factor. Like if you're like, so let's say I buy one T share and I stake it, you know, days or something like that. Well, the next time I have to stake it weeks. The next time I have to stake it months. You know, so if you're DCing in, and let's say you're buying B shares, like billion shares, you know, like as long as you're staking longer, you are potentially accumulating those T shares like at a quicker rate than I am. Just because I had more hex one time doesn't mean that I'm leveraging my time every time. And so, you know, you could end up benefiting more in the long run. So you just have to think like that. You have to think long term. Thanks for tuning in, human trafficker. Oh, it's weird to say.
Imagine. Too funny. All right, so to this chart, yo. Uh, so yeah, so this chart is showing us all these metrics in dollar terms for hex. We got the price of hex, the payout per t-shirt in dollar terms, and then the summation of both of these values, which I call the adjusted hex value. And the last reading we got for the payout per t-shirt was a buck 02. Plus the hex price, which gave us a buck 20 in the future value for hex, right? And one thing I want people to notice is that over time, the price of hex just tracks this value, so it's like a leading indicator, right?
Yep.
Because we always hit these values. It's just a matter of when. And the longer we build sideways, the more value that's being, you know, built in by the system. So the system is going to have to recalibrate itself to, reflect that value in the future. So that's what this chart's about. And this one as well. This one is the price to earnings ratio. What we're doing here is we're taking one hex divided by the payout per T share, which is typically 5.8 or whatever the system puts out. And in reality, that's giving us this rate, right? So you're just taking the payout per T share and inverting it literally. And it's giving you this percentage rate. And that percentage rate is letting you know how quickly you're getting your capital back within 1 year, and that number ends up being about 64 days. So we're about due for a correction, right? Because it's been about that long since we've been correcting in hex, right? 66 days. So we're
Hmm.
already seeing uh 66 there, and this number on average is 64. We'll get to a chart. I got a chart for that. And as you guys can see, the all-time low for the S&P 500 was 5.51 times, not percent. So 551% versus 17%. So yeah, there's a saying from Warren Buffett that goes, "Price is what you pay, value is what you get."
Hmm.
As you guys can see, no value we had here. Immense tons of value to be had here. So there you go. And this is just like a chart detailing the network effect on where we basically are. Because we're really just getting started. This is only year two, right? You got Apple, you got Microsoft, you got Google, you got Bitcoin thrown on here as well. Um, and we're just early. We're just early, and people have to understand. This is a long train ride. This is not, you know, some basic, you know, pump and dump. Like we're gonna be here for a while, so the conversation is different. Has to be.
People are gonna learn, man.
Yeah,
Exactly. They're gonna learn the hard way, you know,
yeah.
and it's crazy.
It is. It is. And here we have current holders versus price of hex, and we got 269,611 as of yesterday. And today is probably more. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. And as you guys can see, price doesn't really spend a lot of time um, under this value. So, I mean, especially not since Big Payday, right? Because it ultimately came and broke above it. So you can't expect it to stay down there for long.
Hmm.
Here we have the current stakers versus the price of X. And again, it's never even been really below. This was one of the few times, another one, and every other point in time after that has been above it. We're at 71,000, almost 72, probably by the night, right? 71,198.
Yep.
This was almost 24 hours ago. So You know, 24 hours ago, several percent later. Let's get a little read on that. What is that? 30% already, 31%. So there we go. Right. And that's how quickly crypto moves. So you have to really mind your
Hmm.
P's and Q's and understand what the name of the game is here. And this is why we stay for 15 years. You know, we don't got to think about 30% moves, 166x moves. Like, doesn't matter. We just getting paid, baby. We just getting it, you know, and that's it. So this chart, a lot of information is in this chart. This chart, the yellow line is the current staker relative to the current holders. So for every person that's holding, or for every four people that's holding, at least one is staked, right? 26.41% of the current holder population is staked. That translates into the current holders versus total holders all time, 69.9% current holders versus total holders. So people that are not really in the system are exiting, right? You had like some airdrops and people, like I said, finding them over time and exiting the system. And then here you have current versus total stakers. So basically, how often somebody stakes and restakes, almost you can consider that, right?
Right.
And that number seems to be above 80%, which is great because that means out of every five people, four are going to stick around, staking some more, which is going to give us that deferred inflation, which is going to give us that augmented price pump, which is going to delay our
Yep. And then it also
gratification.
gives us that community
Yeah.
fundamental that we talked about,
Oh, yeah.
like when
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
stick around.
That's right. That's right. Because people understand the tool, they continue to use it as is intended, right? Which is to delay
Hmm.
gratification. I mean, it all works so well, right?
Yep.
I mean, and look at this, right? During one of the biggest sell-offs in Hex history, in terms of volume, you've had one of the biggest decentralized distributions, one of the biggest distributions in the network ever, right? After Big
Hmm.
Payday. I mean, this is the immediately after Big Payday, like 2.8 million hex per. So this is circulating supply divided by current holder, right? So at one point we were almost at 3 million hex. Now we're at 2.129 million. Like this is one of those bullish charts. And then after this dip is when it really took a move south, right? So this dip has contributed greatly to the obfuscation of centralization of ownership in Hex. Like it's been
Hmm.
really getting let go by all the plebs, and people have been coming in and staking it because our staking length has increased over this period of time, hasn't decreased. So yeah, big things coming, bro. It's wild.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean this is probably one of my favorite charts right now because it's really highlighting the strength, right, of Hex
Hmm.
and people's understanding of it, right? Because you really had a dip after this dip, not even before, after.
Right.
That's crazy. So here we got a chart detailing the number of staked hex per staker, and it's 873,000. It's kind of plateauing a little bit here. But you know, if you look at it where it was after Big Payday, 2.5 million, that's a
Hmm.
pretty big dry up in supply, right? Like there's just not a lot of
Hmm.
hex out there to be staked anymore.
Right. Right. Right.
So, you know, current staker, of course. So you know, you gotta be getting it when you can. This dip is one of those opportunities, right?
And it's going to be even hard. Like when price goes up, it's even harder, right?
Yep.
Because then you're buying less and less and less. So,
Correct.
yeah.
Correct. I mean, look at this. This is payout in hex terms per current staker. We're down to 894 and a half, and the day of that unfortunate event, it went all the way up to 3.2 million, 3.7 million, excuse me. And that was, you know, because it's an average over time, right? And now we're
Hmm.
back down to 894, right? That's how quickly those opportunities come and go when you're not staked.
Exactly. If you're waiting a day, if you're, man, I had some, I had one friend that had like 1,000 T shares in good accounting whenever that happened.
Wow.
I was so pissed. Sorry
Oh
if you're listening
my.
to this.
That's crazy.
But yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's just that's the game theory. Like if you're not in it, you might not win it. So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Gonna get left behind for sure. Just nature of the beast, man. Nature of the beast. I mean,
Hmm.
look at this. Every 64 days, that's the base rate, right? And that's a function of the price to earnings ratio. That's this line in magenta.
Hmm.
And as of yesterday, we were at 17.5 cents. So basically, as of 2 weeks ago, we should have been, right, what was November 12th, at this 93 cent level, but we never made it, right? But what
Well,
people
people don't
don't,
realize how quick we can catch up and
yeah,
surpass the number, you know?
correct. Because it's an average, at this,
Yeah,
just
right.
like we didn't double for this long period of time, right? These values are still true because we ultimately got up to the point where it made them
Yeah.
true, right?
And I think like, something that's like that's funny is like people don't get this. It's an average and it's just data, right? So like
Yeah.
saying, when people are saying, "Oh, well, Will said we would be at, 93 cents by now." Like, guys, it's just data. And so we're saying that based on what has happened previously, that's where we would be at. And we could easily surpass that in days or weeks,
Hmm.
So it's like it's trying to like show you that where we're at right now is a good place to buy because we should already be at 93 cents. So
Correct.
if we were at 93 cents, you'd be buying right now for $2. But you don't want to buy at 20 cents? Like, guys, we're
Why
trying
not?
to change your thinking process.
Yeah. But you got to ask yourself, why not? Now
Hmm.
is the time to buy, right? Now is the time to get your money up, and that's not
Yep.
going to happen by you, not taking the time to understand what is going on in a
Right.
system that gives you all of this data in a transparent fashion, right? Like if
Hmm.
something is on average doubling every quarter, might be well advised to stake for at least 6 months so you can at least get one double, right?
Yep.
That's just logic, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't understand why there's not more traders in it to at least sell it to doubles. Like I'm like, what
yeah,
are you guys doing? Because there's
yeah,
there's people holding like total shit coins that haven't done shit in like a year, and
yep.
they're posting about it, and I'm like, my God, when are you guys going to change the ticker symbol to NGMI? Because like you're literally not going to make it. You're not getting yield on your token. You're not getting yield on your token. Your token is like dead. It's got, no volume at all. There's no community. Like, come on. And people don't want to get into Hex for a quick 2x. Like,
Yeah, I don't
like
get that, man.
you don't even have to believe in it to make money, But if
You
you
know,
really believe in it, you will make a lot of money,
yeah, yeah. Let's see. This is a funny question. Yeah, I don't know, bro. You might want to ask him. No idea what he's gonna do with that. So
Yeah, it's like
sorry.
it's funny that like people say stuff like that, but like look at everything that's happened over the last 2 years. I mean, I don't know. He's for one reducing you don't like paying $100 for a transaction. You don't like paying $1,000 for a transaction. He's solving that for you. Like
Yeah, I say he can do
people
whatever
are
the hell
so
he wants.
ungrateful. People are so ungrateful.
Yeah, I say he can do whatever the hell he wants. So yeah,
I
let
thank
let him
Richard for
do it.
everything he's done.
Yeah,
If you're listening, Richard, like shout out to you. You've
hundred
changed my
percent,
life. You changed my family's life, and I
hundred
appreciate you,
percent,
even
hundred
if some of
percent.
these plebs don't.
Yep, 100%. I'm able to go and see my mother whenever I want.
Hmm. It's a
No
blessing, man. People don't realize that.
problem. Hmm.
Time is the most precious asset on this planet, man.
That's right.
Like if your family's alive, if your kids are healthy, like that's a huge blessing. And like Hex monetizes the most valuable asset we have.
Yep.
Like
And it's time.
if you don't realize it now, if you just trust in the system, like Hex will end up saving you from yourself.
Yep. 100%. I mean, look, it's funny because I've been in Hex for a year. I've only been streaming for like 10 months. I put in my time to be able to make these comments.
Hmm.
There's a reason I can go see my mom whenever I want. I've been holding on for at least a year. Like, you got to put in your
Yep.
time. It's not going to be a freebie. You got to put in the
There's
work.
nothing free in life, man. Like
Yeah.
like people think that this is like get rich quick scheme or something. It's not. You know, you're probably going to get rich over the mid to long term. But like if you're the thing is if you have that mentality to get rich quick, you're gonna get wrecked quick. I said it the last stream too,
100%.
because
Yeah.
you're too emotional and you're gonna make mistakes.
Hmm.
So
That's right. That's right. But that's how it works, right? That's why you got
hmm
to understand what the point is. The point
yep,
is to get paid, not to be playing games.
right.
So people gotta learn, bro. They gotta learn. They gotta learn.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
they
much more
will.
to it.
If you hang around long enough, knowledge will rub off on you. So
Yeah, yeah. Because that's the thing. We're here to educate people the correct way. Like, yo, I was in Albany in one of the U.S. road trip tour stops yesterday or day before, yesterday, day night before, and we are so early. That
for sure.
we really gotta take into account. Like, this is one of the reasons I did this stream, just to give people an explanation of each of these charts so they can understand what's on them, right? Because they're real
hmm
basic in reality, and these are the charts you need to understand so you understand what you own.
Yep.
Because not understanding what you own, right, is going to put you in a precarious position where you're just going to be selling something you might not want to sell. Right now, look at this log scale here. Look at this scaling on the left hand side. Right, it looks familiar. We went over it earlier. Um, let's look back. Right, we're still below a buck. Right, we're around here between
hmm
25 and 12 and a half cents. A buck, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048, 496, right? Boom. All right. One,
Yeah, it's
two,
crazy.
four,
Yeah,
eight.
yeah, exactly. What we were talking about before. It's going to come quick, and
Yep.
man, it's all relative too, man. It's all relative. Like before this, you were probably hoping for 10% in the stock market a year. Like, guys, you're so blessed. Like everybody always wants something more. You know,
Yep.
uh, like I said, I drove a Lamborghini for the first time like a couple months ago, and my God, it was funny because I'm like fucking ripping this thing up and down the street, and I'm like, this feels so fast, it's ridiculous. And it was the Urus, it was the SUV, it wasn't even like the coupe, and I'm like,
Wow.
this feels so fast that like it should be like illegal. Like that's how
Right.
fast it is. It's just like it's unnecessarily fast. But then like, I'm sure people are like, yeah, but what about the McLaren 720S? Oh, what about the
Right.
Rimac? Like that thing does 0 to 60 in 0.5 seconds. Like it's so ridiculous, like guys,
Yeah.
you found something amazing. And like part of going fast and stuff is reliability. Like I want my car to turn on when it starts. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
I don't
Right.
want to
Right.
get in and be like, oh fuck, I can't even drive the damn
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. You,
So,
you hear those
like
stories.
exactly, like Hex is that. It's a rocket ship, but it's also reliable, right?
Right.
It's very reliable.
100%.
So, I don't know. Like but people always want more, they want better, and it's like, God, you're looking a gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah, well, they don't want to put in the work, right? And that's what's crazy to me. I don't
hmm
understand it.
Yeah, people are lazy.
Yeah, what do you think these gains come from? They come from people sitting on their ass and holding on and letting the chart and the market do the work, right? I mean, it's
Yeah, they
right
try to
here in front of you.
overcomplicate things.
Yeah, it's right here in front of you. There's not much more to it. I mean, here you have how the pool ROI works, right? And we talked about it earlier. The less people that are staked, right, as a percentage of the total supply, the bigger the ROI to the pool, right? And right now we're right below 10%. So the APY is 37 and change. And you guys can see 10% is at 36.9%, right? That's what it yields. So if we can't go below, what is it, 17 to like this number, we can't really go below 4.5% because of the sacrifice hex
Mm.
that was given to the off chain sacrifice. Let's
Yeah,
just take a
people don't
look
even
at
think
that.
about that. People don't even
Yeah.
think about that. Man, it's
Yep.
crazy. Uh,
17.6%, 113 billion hex sacrifice, right? So all of that
hmm
is gone, never coming back. So the APY can't really go below like this number, like in between 80 and 85%, because that's a big chunk of supply that's just gone. Like just
Right.
17%, like that's it, right? That's so 100 minus 17, whatever that is, right? I mean, that's a reality of the market that we're dealing with, right? 83%,
Mm,
and actually
crazy.
more, right? Because it's 17.77.
Right.
So it's
Right.
82 and change. So 82 and change. So you can't even really go lower than 4.5%.
hmm
So there's your lower
Wild.
bound for Hex. That's wild, right? No matter what, that's it. You got to pay up after
And
that.
the funny thing is like the OA has long stakes too, and so
Yeah,
like when those come undone, that's just more supply. That's just going to be just
that's
sitting
right.
there.
That's right.
People don't even taking that into account. You know.
Shout out to my boy far out because he's right. The 2022 Toyota
Hmm.
4Runner TRD Hex Edition will last 15 years, no problem.
True.
That's right. That's right, man. It's crazy because this thing is just beast mode, you know.
Yep.
This is why, you gotta, we're gonna have to really, help people understand what the power is in this crypto thing, right? Um,
Hmm.
and it's just
We're
the power
trying.
of,
We're
yeah,
trying. I
the,
mean,
the, the
we all
power
we
of,
all put like this community puts a lot of work in,
oh
to
yeah,
try to like educate everybody because we want everybody to know what they're holding on to. I mean, there's to me there would be nothing more sad than like meeting one of you guys like in 10 years and you said like, "Yo, attendees, like I was in I was in the first 2 years and I fudded out or whatever, like
yeah,
I said, "Oh, I wanted to buy, a BMW," like
right,
we want you on the golden yachts.
yeah, for real. That's why I preach the max, man. Like my 90% of my bag is maxed. Like
Yep.
I'm not playing. I'm really not playing. Like
Nope.
I'm hoping to never sell my hex if everything goes according to plan,
Absolutely.
right? Because the expectation is that something of this caliber can become high quality collateral, and the market can't treat it as such because it's literally that.
Yeah, easily,
I mean, we're talking about something that increases the value of your balance sheet daily. Where does that
Yep.
exist?
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't. And we're talking about 17% of it is just gone forever, which leaves you with a downside of 4.5%. That's it. 4.3 really. Right? That's it.
Hmm. Yeah, people don't get it, man. People don't get it.
Or
And like
4.5.
people are really slow to learn, man.
Hmm.
People are really slow to learn.
That's right, man. And we can try to teach and go over these topics and try to help people understand all of these important data points for Hex. It's not really just a price chart, right? It's not. It's not. No, you
Hmm.
cannot get a loan against Pulse and never sell your Hex. I wouldn't advise you do that. Um, advise what you're doing when you're using any instrument as collateral, right? There's a reason that Hex can be used as that because it actually increases in value over time. Something that you can just hold and that's it, that doesn't really necessarily promulgate that same promise, right?
It's yeah,
So,
it's more dangerous because people can dump it. And like if you
right,
listen to like Richard doesn't want either of those as collateral
right,
because he understands, you
right.
know. But I think in the long run, like I think that you probably will see it for Hex,
Yeah, for
just
Hex
because
for
of the
sure.
nature of it and
Yeah,
stuff,
but it's
because
just
like a lot of
unstoppable.
it's locked up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
a lot of it's locked
unstoppable.
up. It's a little bit.
It's
Yeah,
unstoppable
the dips
because
are less, right? Like so you have
yeah,
something that doesn't dip as much as like the rest of crypto, and potentially in the future you're going to even see lesser and lesser dips. So that makes it safer and safer collateral. Whereas like we looked at Ethereum, Ethereum has no lockup. It dumped 95%. We showed you that on the chart. Well, Pulse also doesn't have a lockup. Can Pulse drop 95%? You bet your ass it could. Will you
yep,
get liquidated if it drops 95%? You bet your
yep,
ass you will.
sure will. So you be
So
careful
you
with
just have
that.
to understand that risk. Yeah, you
Hmm.
got to understand that risk. And like, I always say like, you never want to sell your mood tickets. And also, you know, I've leveraged. I've talked about this before on stream. Like I've
Yeah,
leveraged. I've done 7-figure leverage trades in crypto. You want to be able to sleep. Okay.
yeah,
Let me
just a
tell you.
little bit.
Let me tell you. It can be real stressful sometimes.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if it's worth it. I think like you already have a moon bag, right? Like Pulse can literally go up thousands of X. Like what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do?
Just
Like
out their mind, man. Not even thinking straight.
yeah, exactly.
Look,
Like
when you have a system that works like this, look at this. You got less than 10% of the supply staked, giving you all this room for yield and price gains, right? Because this is going to coincide with price gains.
hmm
Like it has to, because this is by design, right? But the funny thing is at the same time, you know, nobody has to stake it, so the price is still going to go up regardless.
Right.
So the upside is much greater than we can anticipate just because of the basic fact that you can buy and not stake. And as we've
Hmm.
already seen, there's plenty of people that do that. So buckle up, gents and
Oh yeah.
ladies. It's gonna be a wild, wild ride. Wild, wild ride. But
Hmm.
that's pretty much it for the charts, man. I mean, understand the importance of these charts, what information is being relayed. It's very basic information, but it's important to understand it because these are data points of what's really happening on the blockchain,
Yep. Exactly.
right?
It's all data. It's all like that's what I was saying. There's no emotion behind these things. They're just
No,
information, and you can do with the information whatever. So if you
correct.
take the time to understand it, you can not only explain hex better to people. Because some people say like, oh well, I'm having trouble like onboarding. Dude, I don't have any trouble onboarding. I've onboarded big dudes. I've onboarded little people, like
Hmm.
couple thousands to millions. Like it's not hard when you really really understand it. It's better than pretty much everything. Like, so if the person's interested in investing, the only people you're not going to get in are people that have no interest in investing at all, right?
Right,
But if the person's interested in investing, they should at least see the merit in hex.
right.
So
I mean, the math speaks for itself, right? This is the
exactly.
payout for T-share in dollar terms. We're already at a buck.
Hmm.
So if you got 100 T-shares, that's $100. It's simple
Yep.
math. Simple math, right? And there's gonna come a time where we are gonna be at $4, right? We've already hit that $4 number 2 times
Hmm.
recently, right? Like in the past 60 days. So what more do you want, right?
Yeah.
It's so basic, bro. Like you can't help people that can't do basic math. So, if you're willing to learn how to do some basic math and you can really see what's going on here, rewatch
See,
this
did you see
video.
did you see the chat? Did you see
Oh
just see the
yeah,
chat?
yeah, yeah. That was funny. That was funny. Yeah, well, it's not worth acknowledging plebs. Like you know, we're to
But it's like
educate, not
but
just.
that's why it's so early, guys. If you really
Hmm.
understand, it's like there's so much opportunity for you.
This chart is the one, right?
Hmm.
This is the chart, right? This is the chart that really gives all the goods. It explains everything that's happening. So
Amazing.
amazing stuff. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty much it, man.
that's definitely one of my favorite charts for
Yeah,
sure.
this
Just
this
because people because it's so like unknown, like people don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah, because I mean, even in Hex, people won't really understand this chart. This chart
Hmm.
is not really well understood. I haven't really shown it that much. It's relatively new,
Yeah.
and it's just we hadn't thought about it, and we were talking one day, me,
Well,
Dust
like
Bomb.
we really need to say it. We need to say,
Yeah,
like when we're telling people that the inflation is 3.69, we should say that the inflation is a max of 3.69, but the current inflation is, less than 2, right?
yeah, less than
1 and
1 3/4.
change. Yeah, 1 and
Yeah,
change. Come on.
yeah,
So, that's something that as a whole, the community needs to like look at this chart and understand it and
yeah. So let me explain this chart one more time. So the yellow line is just like the legend says here: cumulative inflation. The silver line is deferred inflation. So the cumulative inflation is inflation that's actually been minted by the system to date. So we're just adding them all up. That's it. The systemic inflation is what the system is designed to print, 3.69. The silver line is a deferred inflation, which is the inflation that has been printed but not minted by the system. It just goes back in and gets pushed out. And that's it. So you got 1.96% of that 3.69 as the system is printing that's actually being deferred into the future.
right.
And this is why price is so elevated because all those hex are being moved forward by 53%. The weighting is being moved forward by 53%. So in terms of time, right? All the hex is being pushed forward. You're not going to see it now. You're going to see it at some point in the future. So that's basically it.
Yep.
This chart
Yeah.
is the
So
creme de la creme.
Yeah. So to explain to somebody in the chat that if you listen to a lot of people say max inflation is 3.69. Okay. So this chart is showing you that yes, the max inflation is the purple line, 3.69. That's what it's designed to do.
That's
But
systemic
because
inflation. That's it.
yes, but because we have staking, right, and people are pushing inflation into the future, our actual inflation is the orange or the yellow line.
Right. 1.73%.
Yep.
That's it. This blue line was what I was forecasting would end, what the year would end at, but it ended up being
Oh, okay.
higher because of the emergency end stake penalties that we ended up seeing.
Gotcha.
So we ended up getting an extra day in actuality of, you know how we get the 0.10 APY daily,
Do
right?
what? How do we get what?
You know how we get the 0.10 APY daily,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
right? That's the difference between what we actually got and what I forecasted like a month ago when I did this chart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we got like an extra day, right? Outside of what was deferred.
Hmm.
So, you know, this chart is as simple as it is, I guess is almost difficult to understand. But you know, it's just a beautiful thing, you know, because it's giving you all the goodies of the system.
Hmm.
This is what's actually being minted and this is what's not being minted. So everything is out there for the viewing. Nobody's hiding anything. So it's a beautiful thing.
It really is.
Yeah, man. So that's pretty much all I got, brother. If you want, you can let people know where to find you, and we can wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thanks for sticking around. I think this was definitely a good stream to share. So, share it on your social media and everything. You can find me at 4attendees on Twitter. Be posting the memes and stuff. Happy to answer any questions. If you guys have like correct questions about Hex or PLS, just hit me up and I'll answer you when I get some time. But yeah, thanks for the stream, bro. This was definitely a really good one.
Yeah, man, it was a good one, bro. And just to answer a question in the chat, does 5 years pay 38% or less, or does it have to be 5.8? To get that number that you're seeing in the app, it has to be that average staking length. So that's the answer to the question. If you want to get that APY that's being shown there, then that's what it is. You know, and it's nothing else. So yeah. Yeah, so you guys know where to find me, worldsonly.com. Find me on Twitter at worldsonly1, like you see on the screen. And on Telegram, t.me/worldsonly. And we'll be checking out Boston on the US road trip tour this weekend. So if you're in the area, check us out. Hit freedomtv.info. That's where you can RSVP for the event if you're going to be in the Boston area. So check that out. And
I'll be in London if anybody's out there.
there you
Holla
go.
at your boy.
Yeah. And then on 12/2, there's going to be a party event for Hex on the 2nd of December. You can also find information about that event on the same website, freedomtv.info. Sorry, freedomtv.info. So that's what's going down. You guys have a good, happy Thanksgiving and all of that good
Happy
stuff.
Thanksgiving, peeps.
Yeah. Peace, guys. We're going to
Peace.
go out with this countdown. Peace. This is Whales Only. Glad you guys can make it out. I'm making some claims that are pretty outlandish, but I can back them up. Boom. End of story. There is no other crypto out there, so don't get it twisted. If you don't understand where you're parking your money, you're going to pay the consequences for that, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. Boom. We're obliterating everybody. Literally. There is nobody else that comes close to what Hex has done. Boom. Oh, it's about to get funky. Funkier than you could have ever imagined. You know, Richard Hart is a boss. Hex is literally the best thing on the planet. It's